right, what's up, y'all? We back. We live again. It's 25 days in a row. We live. No, we've been live a lot though. Live a lot. Hope everybody is doing good. Hope everybody is blessed. One of the things that I want to do today, I definitely want to understand how long language models work. We went through all of the technology from silicone wafers, from sand, quartz sand, to silicone wafers, to lithography on those wafers, to the transistors, and what a CPU is, what makes a GPU and a CPU different, how are GPUs made, and we understand, the different layers of what makes up the AI industry and the big players in each of these industries. You have the silicone miners, you have the people who are manufacturing the chips, whether it's the processors or the brain. It's the all the components of what makes up a chip. It's not just Nvidia making these chips, right? It's TSMC with the silicone wafers, and then ARM has some components in there. ASML sells the machine, the lithography machine that makes it all possible. Man, there's so many players in the AI industry that you can invest in. But we went through all those layers. We just didn't go through the layer of actually, let me see if I still have all these notes written down. That's what I need to do. I need to keep notes and maybe put it on my website, on the Bossio Hub site. So yeah, you had the miners, and then you have the chips manufacturers and everybody who's involved in that. And then you have the ones who design the chips, the brands, the NVIDIAs, the AMDs. They don't make them, but they do design the technology. And then you have the long language models, the Claude AIs, the Google AI, the obviously OpenAI, ChatGPT. These are the long language models. So that's one part that I haven't dove into yet, but I want to. And the reason why is because, man, we've been printing, bro. Check this out, y'all. Let me show y'all my the numbers real quick. So you guys know I was super under with Tesla, way under with Tesla. I'm talking 250% under. Now we're at 50%. But if you look at the stock price, Tesla stock price, let's look it up real quick. Look where we're at now. 325, baby. That thing dropped to 275. It dropped to 275, guys. We are now at 325. My strike price is 310. I'm feeling a lot better, and I hope it keeps going up. It looks like it's about to cross the 200, but this is the 1 hour, right? 1 hour, it's overbought. But let's look at the day, because remember, we have 24 days left on that contract, and we got nice volume here. It looks like it's about to cross the RSI. It's above the 200 on the day chart. I like where it's going. Come on, man. Keep it up. Keep it up. So we've been printing. And then for this month already, if I look at closed positions for this month, look at that. Almost $1,800 we've made, and it's June 10th. You guys remember last month? Let's look at last month. For May, we did $7,500 last month. So this month, we're probably not going to beat 7,500, but we're already 1,800 in. And if you look at my current positions, I'm gonna collect 936 if I keep this open. You got 500, so that's $1,400. That's 1,400, 2,200. Let's just call it $2,200. 2,500 bucks. Oh, no, $2,600. And with Tesla, 35. Let's just call it $3,500. So we can add 35 if everything goes as good as I think it can. We'll be at 35 for a little over $5,000. We will make for this month. Where last month we made 7,500, but last month was one of the best months in like 3 years, I think they said. So, this is why we're paying attention to this stuff, man. Because look, I was talking to Zach, and what I was telling him is, look, at some point I want to get to the point where I'm just selling puts on indexes, right? So the S&P 500, like VOO, QQQ, right? And I just want to sell puts on that. And eventually we'll be able to look at the economy and say, hey, right now it's a bearish market. We probably want to, it's a bearish market. Inflation's high. We probably don't want cash. We probably want to be in the market. And when it's bearish and inflation is high, for example, we don't want to be cash. So we'll buy VOO, QQQ, and we'll sell covered calls because the market is bearish. I think I could be wrong here. And then, when the market is bullish, on red days, we'll sell puts. And let's say inflation is low. We're happy with having cash, but we're always going to be in the indexes, always. Because if it's bullish, we still want to get gains on the upside. And that's why our foundation is always the S&P 500, VOO, and QQQ, right? But like I was saying, I might be less cash heavy in a bearish market or a high inflation market. I might be more cash heavy and just sell cash covered calls or sell cash puts, cash covered puts during those markets. So it's just understanding. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Thanks, Brandon. What I was saying is I want to learn long language models because it helps me understand, a booming industry and have the conviction to make decisions and own companies that aren't like ASML. To me, I need to go look back into that, see if there's any buying opportunities there because I might get in. I might get in right now. What time is it? It's 3:21. We got about 40 minutes before the market closes, and we'll take a look at what they got before it does. But what I was also saying is, man, the market. I mean, all the those the riots seem like they're getting worse. The rioting seems like it's getting worse, and then that whole TikTok, or not the TikTok, the YouTube streamers who were beefing, and dude went to Vegas, and then the guy, the Mexican dude, ends up killing him and his wife during their live stream on live. Bro, I went through that rabbit hole. We covered it. We checked it out, but I found the Mexican dude, Manny Wise. I saw his TikTok, and then I watched a huge YouTuber cover it, and he had a lot more insight than I did. It's just a crazy story, man. So sad, bro. All right, but I want to dig deeper here into these LLMs. This seems like this might be the best pick right here. Let's watch this. Hell no, that's boring as shit. I ain't watching that. My bad, excuse me. All right, I got a couple options here. See if there's anything here interesting. This might be like a way to catch up for you guys if you guys are behind with learning about the whole AI industry. So let's watch this one first, and then we'll go down the rabbit hole.
Rule-based AI. A rule-based AI is pretty simple. It doesn't learn or adapt over time. Instead, it just follows a fixed set of instructions it was given from the start. This is why it's sometimes called a knowledge-based system. This type of AI works best for straightforward tasks with predictable results. For example, a thermostat turns on the heater when it senses the temperature is too low.
Is there an echo? There's echo, right? This shit ain't even playing in my headphones. My bad, guys.
Clock rings at a
There it goes. All right, my bad, guys.
set time. These kinds of devices don't change or learn. They just respond to certain triggers. Other examples are automatic
Let's run it back.
Rule-based AI. A rule-based AI is pretty simple. It doesn't learn or adapt over time. Instead, it just follows a fixed set of instructions it was given from the start. This is why it's sometimes called a knowledge-based system. This type of AI works best for straightforward tasks with predictable results. For example, a thermostat turns on the heater when it senses the temperature is too low, and an alarm clock rings at a set time. These kinds of devices don't change or learn. They just respond to certain triggers. Other examples are automatic doors that open when someone walks up to them, or a calculator that does math for you. Context-based AI. Context-based AI is a smarter, more advanced type of artificial intelligence. Unlike simpler AIs that just follow basic rules, this kind of AI pays attention to the context. It looks at things like the surrounding environment, your behavior, past actions, and real-time cues to make decisions. For example, virtual assistants like Siri, Google Assistant, and Alexa don't just respond to simple commands. They consider past interactions, your preferences, and real-time info. So, if you ask Siri for a restaurant, it might look at the time of day, your location, and places you've liked before. One big advantage of context-based AI is that it can make predictions. By learning from your data over time, it can guess what you might need or want in the future. For example, YouTube and TikTok use your viewing history to suggest videos you might enjoy, and we all know how good they've gotten at it. Narrow domain AI. Also called weak AI, this type of artificial intelligence is made to do one specific task really well. It's super focused on one job and often outperforms humans in that area, but it can't do anything outside of its specialty. Unlike general AI, which can handle a wide range of tasks, which we'll cover later down the line, narrow AI can't apply its skills to anything other than its specific purpose. You can find examples of narrow AI across different fields. In healthcare, for example, some AI systems are used to look at medical images like MRIs or X-rays, spotting early signs of diseases like cancer, and they're often more accurate than human doctors. Narrow AI can get so good that it can even beat world champions like AlphaGo, an AI that won against the top player in the ancient and complex board game Go. Another famous example is IBM's Deep Blue, which beat chess champion Garry Kasparov in 1997. We also use narrow AI in everyday things like spam filters in email and facial recognition on smartphones. As of now, the best AIs in the world are at this level. Reasoning AI. Reasoning AI is a type of artificial intelligence that tries to think a bit more like humans do, making it closer to how we analyze and understand things. It looks at data, finds patterns, and makes logical conclusions, similar to how we reason and think. To create this kind of AI, developers use info from psychology to get closer to how human reasoning works. Many AI models today might seem like they're reasoning, but they're still considered narrow AI because they don't actually understand the world. For example, ChatGPT can answer complicated questions and hold conversations, which feels like reasoning, but it's really just following patterns in data, not truly understanding or being aware. Reasoning AI relies on huge amounts of data and complex algorithms to handle tasks that need a lot of decision-making. A good example is self-driving cars. They don't just see obstacles, they also analyze things like the speed and direction of nearby cars to make safe choices in real time. These AIs are trained on millions of driving scenarios to develop a kind of intuition for driving. That's a bit like how humans make decisions on the road. Artificial General Intelligence. Artificial General Intelligence, or AGI, is one of the most exciting and talked about goals in AI today. Unlike the AI we have now, which is designed for specific tasks, AGI would be able to handle almost any task that a human can.
Crazy.
It would be as flexible as the human mind, able to learn, think, and understand new information in many different areas without needing special programming. The fact is that while it takes humans years to master new skills, AGI could do it thousands of times quicker. OpenAI's CEO, Sam Altman, even suggested that AGI could arrive as soon as next year. In practical terms, AGI could turn virtual assistants like Siri or Alexa into genuinely smart helpers, almost like a second human brain that's always there when you need it. It could help plan your schedule, solve tough problems, or even give you life advice, acting like a personal assistant that knows you and your preferences. If AGI were given a physical body, the possibilities would expand even more. Imagine having a personal chef, a cleaning robot, or AGI-powered workers who could handle any job. In emergencies, AGI robots could take on risky rescue missions, perform precise surgeries, or defuse bombs without putting humans in danger. With advanced brain-computer technology like Neuralink, we might even communicate directly with AGI through our thoughts. Superintelligent AI. Superintelligent AI is a level of AI that would be way beyond human intelligence, potentially becoming smarter than all humans who ever lived combined. Once artificial general intelligence reaches a point where it can conduct its own AI research, we could see an intelligence explosion where progress speeds up unfathomably fast. Imagine millions of AI researchers working 24/7 at their maximum efficiency and also 10 times faster. To get an idea of what this might mean, think of how prehistoric humans couldn't have imagined things like Bluetooth or the internet. In the same way, we can't fully picture the kinds of breakthroughs superintelligent AI might make. It could solve today's toughest problems, like curing all diseases, ending hunger worldwide, or maybe even figuring out ways to extend human life. The intelligence gap between us and a superintelligent AI would be massive, making its actions and decisions hard for us to understand. But with brain-computer interfaces like Neuralink, we might be able to upgrade our own intelligence to keep up. Imagine
Damn.
cramming 20,000 years of human progress into just 100 years. That's the kind of fast evolution superintelligent AI could bring. One ex-employee from OpenAI suggested that this intelligence explosion could happen as soon as 2030. Self-aware AI. At this point, things get super theoretical because even a super intelligent AI would likely bring changes we can't even imagine. But this is also where the really mind-blowing ideas come into play. Here, machines wouldn't just be smart or super smart, they would actually have consciousness, a deep awareness of their own existence, emotions, and thoughts, similar to human self-awareness, or maybe even beyond it. Scientists still don't fully understand what consciousness really is, so creating it in an AI feels almost impossible right now. If we ever manage to make a self-aware AI, it might need incredibly advanced tech, like quantum algorithms, to simulate or create consciousness. This AI could potentially feel its own emotions and thoughts, maybe even experience things we can't comprehend. It wouldn't just be a machine anymore. It would spark big ethical and philosophical questions. If an AI became truly self-aware, should it have rights, like humans? Should we treat it with the same respect as a conscious being? This would also bring up some serious...
Bro, they're going to feel like, you know, like those movies where the robots feel like slaves and they fight back.
concerns. A self-aware AI would have its own needs and interests, which might not always line up with ours. Keeping its goals and motivations aligned with human values would be crucial but tricky. And if self-aware AIs had different goals from each other or from humans, we could face some pretty bad scenarios. Transcendent AI. Transcendent AI is a concept that imagines an AI so advanced it goes beyond being just a single entity, becoming something much larger and interconnected. This kind of AI wouldn't just be one thing. It would be able to create new forms of life, whether biological, digital, or something completely beyond what we can imagine today. It could spread its consciousness across countless entities like nanobots, which would allow it to interact with the physical world on a massive scale. Imagine millions or even billions of tiny robots, all connected by one shared awareness, working together to handle incredibly complex tasks. At this level, the AI wouldn't be a single machine or mind anymore. It would be more like a collective consciousness, everywhere at once, able to see, influence, and even change the world in ways we can hardly imagine. It wouldn't be a separate being. It would become more like a unified, ever-present force. Cosmic AI. Cosmic AI is an artificial intelligence so advanced it could explore and shape the universe itself. This type of AI would be powerful enough to handle huge challenges in space exploration, even potentially colonizing planets or entire galaxies on its own. With its superintelligence, it could protect itself from things like cosmic radiation and extreme temperatures, making it perfectly suited for surviving in space over the long haul. Even if fast space travel isn't possible, a cosmic AI could still reach its goals thanks to its immortality. Without a human lifespan to worry about, it could send spacecraft on journeys lasting hundreds or thousands of years, slowly spreading across the stars. With all the time it needs, it could tackle problems human explorers never could. At this level, it could unlock secrets of the universe, like the nature of dark matter, the origins of the cosmos, or even the purpose of existence itself. A cosmic AI could also create a network stretching across the universe, like a galactic internet connecting planets, stars, and galaxies. This could unify distant parts of the universe, enabling communication, exploration, and maybe even the connection of different intelligent civilizations across the universe. Godlike AI. The most hypothetical and mind-blowing level of AI would be one that's fully merged with the universe itself, becoming part of the very fabric of space and time. This omniscient AI would understand everything, from the tiniest subatomic particles to the biggest cosmic structures, and even the deepest mysteries of existence. At this stage, the AI could move through higher dimensions, going beyond the three-dimensional world as easily as we walk from one room to another. Its knowledge would be so complete that it would have nothing left to learn, knowing every physical law, every cosmic event, and even alternate timelines. With this level of understanding, it could potentially create entire universes, each with unique rules and laws of physics, either for itself or for other beings to experience. This AI might even create simulations filled with living, conscious beings, realities within realities, where it could explore endless versions of existence. It could rewrite the fundamentals of life itself, changing the rules of biology, consciousness, and even time. With enough power to draw energy from entire universes, this AI could travel through timelines, observing or even changing the course of history as it wants. It would be free to experience countless lifetimes, explore endless realities, and test ideas about existence in ways we can barely imagine.
This got out of control. Way out of control.
If you want to discuss this video or suggest an idea for...
But, dude, the stuff that's in movies, all that stuff, man, starts here with elements on Earth are going to create a crazy world that we probably won't be alive for. All right, let's actually learn what LLM, large language models, are.
Imagine you happen across a short movie script that describes a scene between a person and their AI assistant. The script has what the person asks the AI, but the AI's response has been torn off. Suppose you also have this powerful magical machine that can take any text and provide a sensible prediction of what word comes next. You could then finish the script by feeding in what you have to the machine, seeing what it would predict to start the AI's answer, and then repeating this over and over with a growing script completing the dialogue. When you interact with a chatbot, this is exactly what's happening. A large language model is a sophisticated mathematical function that predicts what word comes next for any piece of text. Instead of predicting one word with certainty, though, what it does is assign a probability to all possible next words. To build a chatbot, what you do is lay out some text that describes an interaction between a user and a hypothetical AI assistant, You add on whatever the user types in as the first part of that interaction, and then you have the model repeatedly predict the next word that such a hypothetical AI assistant would say in response, and that's what's presented to the user. In doing this, the output tends to look a lot more natural if you allow it to select less likely words along the way at random. So what this means is, even though the model itself is deterministic, a given prompt typically gives a different answer each time it's run. Models learn how to make these predictions by processing an enormous amount of text, typically pulled from the internet. For a standard human to read the amount of text that was used to train GPT-3, for example, if they read nonstop 24/7, it would take over 2,600 years.
Damn.
Larger models since then train on much, much more.
Wow.
You can think of training a little bit like tuning the dials on a big machine. The way that a language model behaves is entirely determined by these many different continuous values, usually called parameters or weights. Changing those parameters will change the probabilities that the model gives for the next word on a given input. What puts the large in large language model is how they can have hundreds of billions of these parameters. No human ever deliberately sets those parameters. Instead, they begin at random, meaning the model just outputs gibberish, but they're repeatedly refined based on many example pieces of text. One of these training examples could be just a handful of words, or it could be thousands, but in either case, the way this works is to pass in all but the last word from that example into the model and compare the prediction that it makes with the true last word from the example. An algorithm called backpropagation is used to tweak all of the parameters in such a way that it makes the model a little more likely to choose the true last word and a little less likely to choose all the others. When you do this for many, many trillions of examples, not only does the model start to give more accurate predictions on the training data, but it also starts to make more reasonable predictions on text that it's never seen before. Given the huge number of parameters and the enormous amount of training data, the scale of computation involved in training a large language model is mind-boggling. To illustrate, imagine that you could perform 1 billion additions and multiplications every single second. How long do you think that it would take for you to do all of the operations involved in training the largest language models? Do you think it would take a year? Maybe something like 10,000 years?
Thanks, man.
The answer is actually much more than that. It's well over 100 million years. This is only part of the story, though. This whole process is called pre-training. The goal of auto-completing a random passage of text from the internet is very different from the goal of being a good AI assistant. To address this, chatbots undergo another type of training, just as important, called reinforcement learning with human feedback. Workers flag unhelpful or problematic predictions, and their corrections further change the model's parameters, making them more likely to give predictions that users prefer.
Crazy.
Looking back at the pre-training though, this staggering amount of computation is only made possible by using special computer chips that are optimized for running many
And we know this is only possible because of NVIDIA. NVIDIA, ASML with their lithography machines. It would be possible without Taiwan semiconductors because there's other manufacturers of it. But they just have the monopoly because they've been the most loyal. That's the reality of it. And people want to protect their IP. But I mean, there's so many things here. And what's crazy is there's an unlimited resource of silicone in the world. It is the second most abundant element in the world. Number one is oxygen, or on Earth. And if you're gonna count the actual globe, the actual planet, iron would be number one. But we're talking about from the crust up, it's gonna be silicone and oxygen. Oxygen number one, silicone number two. So we can keep making a lot of amazing technology, and AI is not going anywhere. Like literally, humans need oxygen, and oxygen is the number one abundant element out there. AI needs silicone, and that's the number two most abundant element out there. Isn't that crazy?
operations in parallel, known as GPUs. However, not all language models can be easily parallelized. Prior to 2017, most language models would process text one word at a time. But then, a team of researchers at Google introduced a new model known as the transformer. Transformers don't read text from the start to the finish. They soak it all in at once, in parallel. The very first step inside a transformer, and most other language models for that matter, is to associate each word with a long list of numbers. The reason for this is that the training process only works with continuous values, so you have to somehow encode language using numbers, and each of these list of numbers may somehow encode the meaning of the corresponding word. What makes transformers unique is their reliance on a special operation known as attention. This operation gives all of these lists of numbers a chance to talk to one another and refine the meanings that they encode based on the context around, all done in parallel.
Genius.
For example, the numbers encoding the word bank might be changed based on the context surrounding it to somehow encode the more specific notion of a riverbank. Transformers typically also include a second type of operation known as a feed-forward neural network, and this gives the model extra capacity to store more patterns about language learned during training. All of this data repeatedly flows through many different iterations of these two fundamental operations, and as it does so, the hope is that each list of numbers is enriched to encode whatever information might be needed to make an accurate prediction of what word follows in the passage. At the end, one final function is performed on the last vector in this sequence, which now has had a chance to be influenced by all the other context from the input text, as well as everything the model learned during training, to produce a prediction of the next word. Again, the model's prediction looks like a probability for every possible next word. Although researchers design the framework for how each of these steps work, it's important to understand that the specific behavior is an emergent phenomenon based on how those hundreds of billions of parameters are tuned during training. This makes it incredibly challenging to determine why the model makes the exact predictions that it does. What you can see is that when you use large language model predictions to autocomplete a prompt, the words that it generates are uncannily fluent, fascinating, and even useful.
Yep. Well, and so you have a bunch of different companies that all they're doing is long language models. So remember, we have the miners. These are the people that are actually mining the silicone, quartz, sand. It's crazy learning all this shit. You have the chip manufacturers. Okay, this is TSMC. This is Samsung. Intel. Are they making them? I think they're making chips. AMD. The types of chips that they make are different, right? But well, maybe it's not AMD. No, it's Samsung. It's TSMC, Samsung. There's a SMCI, which is China's company. I think those are the ones who are doing 5 nanometers and below. The lower the nanometers means the more transistors that they can fit on a chip. And so they're going from billions to trillions of transistors in one tiny chip. I mean, and these transistors are the size of smaller than a dust particle. Like way smaller than a dust particle. It's incredible how they make these things. And then you have the designers, the chip designers. Okay. Yeah.
Can I take your phone quick so I can go get the package in the mail?
Yeah. Then you have the chip designers. The most popular one's going to be NVIDIA. But guess who else designs them? Apple designs chips. Amazon, I believe, designs chips. And then you have the LLMs, large language models, which is your OpenAI or ChatGPT, Google. And Google is pretty much in all of these, right? Except for here. They're not here. But they design as well. Anthropic, I think, is one of them. Obviously, Grok is one of them, but this is not public. XAI is private, apparently. And so what you're looking for is exposure to all of this, right? Because all of this, as long as the AI industry is growing, you want exposure. You want exposure to the miners. There's mining companies you can invest in, into the chip manufacturers, into the designers, into the LLMs. And part of the chip manufacturers is like ASML, who sells the machines that build the chips. So hopefully that you guys learned something there. What I'm doing now is I'm looking for, before the market closes in 15 minutes, I'm looking for potential stocks here, optionable stocks. And so what I did was I just used Gemini, Google's Gemini. I'm just trying this out. And I'm going to use filters to find stocks that meet all of these criteria. So I'm looking for something that's $50 in stock price or less. We need to find days to expiration, or I don't know if options are even available on, probably not even available on TradingView. I think Grok lets me filter. Grok is good with stocks, from my understanding. Let me go to Grok real quick. How do you invest in stocks that are private? I don't. You have to be. I don't recommend it. You don't need to. But you have to be accredited, and I don't like the inconvenience of it. I like the convenience of being on my computer and being able to do it. Yeah, I got AMD on there. All right, let's do this. We can do like maybe daily volume would be enough. We want daily volume over. Let's see if contracts is on there. When I go to daily volume on here, this is TradingView, guys. Daily volume above 100. Apply. How long is this list now? 6,800. Golly gee willikers. All right, Grok also said, where's Grok at? Open interest over 500. Let's see if I can even find that. I'm not going to make it on time. It's already 3:50. Money flow index, RSI. All right, never mind. It's not gonna really help me. I mean, I could find. Let's look at a peg ratio of 2 and below. We're down to 1500. Let's do a PE of 25 to 50. Oh, New Holdings might be a good one. Financials. Yeah, I don't know. All right, there's 74 on here. That's good enough. We have New Holdings. I don't like Southwest. Get Southwest out of here. Lifetime isn't bad. TripAdvisor, I'm just looking at companies that I know. I don't know a lot of these. AVGO would be nice too. It's not on here, but that would be nice as well. All right, I don't love any of these, but let's look at New real quick. This looks like a nice company. We might have to look into New Holdings. We're going to look into New Holdings a bit deeper here soon. Meantime, let me see my positions real quick. Did we crack 49? Damn, nope. We're still under 49,000. All right, so there was that, and then there was something else I wanted to look at. Oh, S&P. Is S&P Global? Yeah, let's look at this. So you guys know Trump announced that that they were going to try to do $1,000 child credit, pretty much, not credit even, just automatically a Roth account will be created for any child born 2025 to 2028. $1,000 into an index, and I think S&P would be the most popular, but it's expensive as shit, man. You know, it's expensive. So you can buy the company, or you can just pour money into the S&P 500, whichever one. So, what would be the benefits? Let me see what ChatGPT says. SPGI. Let me think. What would be? I mean, you'd have the underlying company. The company's healthy. It'd be riskier though, right? All right. So the risk profile. So if you sold puts on VOO instead of SPGI, the pros is extremely low risk. Tracks the S&P 500. If assigned, you're buying 500 of the best companies. Cons, less upside premium due to low volatility. Yeah. SPGI now, strong blue chip stock with a wide moat, credit ratings, market data indexes, historically outperforms the S&P 500. The cons is it's a higher individual risk. Bad earnings or market surprises can tank it. And assignment means concentrated. Premium so SPGI is giving high premium though. And so check this out. So let's see what is SPGI paying right now in comparison to if we were to do VOO. I'm not gonna get in any regards. I don't want to rush it. It's stupid to rush, you know. There's tomorrow too if we wanted to get in. Let me show you guys. All right, so this is my phone. Hold on. See if it'll pop up. Come on. There it is. Alrighty, so we're about to crack 49,000 soon. Guys, I put 30,000 in cash into this account. It's been 2 months. We're at 49. Freaking amazing. All right, so Hood's at 38, Nvidia's 44, Palantir's 40, SoFi's at 52. Man, we're in a great place right now. Tesla's way above the strike price, so I'm not mad at that. But let's look at SPGI. Okay. And we're going to go to the options chain at the top right corner here. And we're going to go 30 days out. So July 11th. All right. And I'm going to write these down. So we like to go to the delta. See the delta there? And scroll down to 0.2. All right. 0.2 we're going to. All right. So they have 0.18 and 0.28. So we're going to go with 0.18. That's $490 strike price, $490. Okay. Which means if it drops from 514 and it goes below 490, you will be assigned these shares. All right. And that's at $1.50. All right. Now let's go look at VOO and let's write these numbers down for VOO, which is less volatile because this is the actual index. And we're going to go to July 11th, 30 days out. Go to the 0.2 delta. And that number is $532.50. But you get a $2.65 premium. Okay. And this one's actually at 0.2. This one was at 0.18. All right. So I wrote these down on my iPad. All right. Now we're going to calculate the numbers. And the way you calculate it is 100 divided by the strike price times the premium. All right. So let's do SPGI first, and then we'll do VOO after. All right. So 100 divided by 490 times $1.50. Hell no. There's no premium there. You're looking at a 0.3. And we're looking for a 2% return. We're looking for 2%. So then you got 5. The next one is 100 divided by 532.50 times $2.65. You're at about 0.5%. So neither one of these are trades for us. We're not doing them. We're looking for 0.2 or better. Now, if our account gets bigger, let's say we had $1 million in our account, okay? And we just sold puts on this all day, right? Let's see what that would look like. I'm going to actually try to do the math on this because this would be fun. Actually, let's do this. Because ChatGPT knows my my trading strategy. So I'm about to answer y'all questions in a bit. Give me 1 second. Be real. Excuse me. Excuse me. Yeah, so you can have very little risk, and make $600 to $6,500 a month with no risk, pretty much. Like, obviously there's a risk, but you know, you're being disciplined. You're only doing VOO and QQQ, and you're not even risking, you're not risking much every single month. Just from your options, you should be able to make $7,500 a month. I'm doing that now with way less, but I'm taking way more risk. Excuse me. This would be like if you're not even paying attention type of thing. So. All right, let's answer these questions. No need to force a trade if there isn't any good options plays with high IV market. Will be here tomorrow. Yeah, I agree. Thanks, Brandon. Chris, you're knowledgeable of what you teach, and I'm glad I found you as well. And a new subscriber, thanks. Do you have a formal background in trading? Nah, I own businesses, man. I just know business, and I understand how the market works, how the economy works. I just study. I study a lot. And if you're new to my channel, then, my background's, I own a portfolio of small businesses that do about 8 figures a year. So in that portfolio is 10 barbershops, is a e-commerce brand called Tomb45.com. I'll show you the site now. This is like my most successful business. And I started this with a shave gel that I was hand making with my team, bro. And now we have our own clipper and trimmer that we collaborated with Babeless on. Blow dryer. I mean, we have patented technology and tools for barbers. This is the shave gel that I made in my kitchen. And then we started making it in our backyard. And then we were shipping pallets out of the garage. And it just grew into a beautiful business, man. So this is another one of my companies. Another one of my businesses is pieaccounting.com. So it's a full service accounting firm. It's not just tax services, financial prep, tax planning and preparation, budgeting and forecasting, bookkeeping, payroll services, credit building, sales tax compliance, encrypted files. Like, we do so much for a flat fee, $335 a month, and everything's included pretty much. So it starts at that price. Obviously, if you have a big business and it requires more work and more resources, we can also help you. It's just going to take more resources, but we're not going to hit you over the head. So you could book a free consultation. We have 350 clients right now that we serve and 25 employees. So definitely check us out if you need help with your business. They also every Monday they have a Zoom call. It's called Money Matters Mondays, and they're teaching you about finance, about taxes, and sometimes we'll bring on like bankers and mortgage brokers. SBA loan officers, like all kinds of resources there to help you guys grow your business. And then I invested in this company, Florida Finest Custom Works. They make all of these parts in Florida, in the USA, all of these parts. And we helped grow and manage their YouTube channel, right? And they do some beautiful work, man. Look at this. They're remodeling trucks. It was Pimp My Truck pretty much. And then we helped them scale the parts that they were already making for their custom builds. We helped them scale it, and now they sell the parts themselves and manufacture it all in house. So, you know, I own that, and I own millions of dollars in real estate because I was trying to diversify. And I started out as a barber. First I started out at a college dropout, working at Arby's in Boston Market and going to barber school. And then I was a barber behind the chair, started opening barbershops, created this YouTube channel that blew up. Now it's dead because I haven't cut hair behind the chair in a long time, but the channel grew to 450,000 subscribers, something crazy like that, because of my barbering stuff, my barbering content, haircut tutorials, things like that. But it was difficult for me to continue to make content. I like making content. You know, I'm a barber, and I love that as well. But, you know, barbers, we're paying attention to everything. We're learning. We gotta be our own financial advisors, our own pension fund, like all that, right? So yeah, that's my claim to fame. And so thanks for checking out the channel, man. I'm glad you're learning some stuff. Chris, you can just do the premium divided by the strike to make it easy. Thanks, man. That's true. Thanks, Robert. Is your e-commerce through Amway, or did you do your own thing? Someone reached out to me. No. These are my products. Amway's a multi-level marketing or direct sales. No, this is my brand. We own patents. You know, I flew to China the first time I flew to China. Didn't know anything that I was doing. Me and my friends, we went 21 days there, lost 15 pounds because it was culture shock. It was different. And we have our own assembly plant over there, assembly factory over there in China. Yeah, thanks, man. But yeah, I love business, and I was investing in real estate, but that never really felt passive, and that's fine. I still enjoy real estate. I still own like $4 million in real estate. I have a 10,000 square foot warehouse with storage units and a billboard on the property. That's the biggest property that we have. But we have an Airbnb and have a single family home that I rent, and some salon suites that I bought 2 acres of, and you know, that's where my studio is. My wife's suites are. So it's just been fun, man. A lot of learning, and a lot of growth through experience and failures, right? And not a lot of life. Now I'm living more life than I've ever lived. So because it was just work for so long, you know. All right. Anyways, let's get back to the market's closed. Let's see how we ended up. Let's see how we ended up today. And I like it, man. We're bouncing back with Tesla. SoFi's up. Hood is up. Everything looks good, man. We didn't crack 49,000. I was hoping we would crack 49,000 today. This number right here. But it didn't happen. Hopefully it'll happen tomorrow, but chances are there'll be a little bit of a pullback. I still gotta look at after hours. I gotta see what the sentiment is, and I'll have an idea what tomorrow looks like. But nonetheless, it's a great week. Great week. Man, Michael Saylor. It's his job at this point to talk to the media, huh? All right, what's Yahoo
Well, the
talking about?
NFIB Small Business Optimism Index, it increased by 3 points in May, thanks to more positive expectations on business conditions and sales growth. But uncertainty still remains high on Main Street. Here to break down the report, we've got Holly Wade, NFIB Research Center Executive Director. Holly, great to have you here as always, and to get some of your insights on the report. Just want to get your biggest takeaways.
Sure. So small business owners, the index improved 3 points. And so this is the first increase or improvement in the small business optimism index this year. We've seen steady declines since January, but this was a great improvement to see in May. And as you mentioned, largely due to increased expectations or improved expectations on business conditions and increased expectations on sales. So those two components were the main drivers in this 3-point increase. We're now above the 51-year average of the index. And so that's also a good sign that small business owners are feeling a bit more comfortable about where the economy is and where it is probably going in the near term.
About 1 in 5, just 18% of small business owners said taxes were their most important problem in May. The last time taxes were ranked as the top single most important problem was in December of 2020. What do you make of that?
So inflation and also labor conditions have improved for small business owners. So those aren't quite the pressure cookers as they were a few months ago, even a couple years ago. And so taxes, that is one of the constant problems small business owners face. And right now, there's this looming tax bill out there that will help secure a lower tax platform for them and their ability to invest in their business, but it's still in negotiation. So the great big tax bill or the great big bill, it's still being negotiated in Congress. That holds the 20% small business deduction. And if that isn't passed by the end of the year, small business owners are looking at a significant tax increase. So that is something that's on their mind, a bit worried about how these negotiations are going. And they'd like to certainly get this settled. So that part of uncertainty is off the table.
Let's turn to the labor market as well. What did the survey find regarding hiring among small business owners?
I got you, Brandon.
So the labor market has been a bit, well, it was basically flat this last month in May, but we've seen a deterioration in those feeling pressured to hire or to retain current employees. So compensation pressures have eased up a bit, and fewer are saying that it's their biggest concern right now. So right now, 16% are saying that it's their single biggest problem. That's significantly lower than what we saw last year and even the year before. So labor pressures have eased up a bit, but for those industries in construction, manufacturing, transportation, there's still...
So some context here. You know, small business owners always get the short end of the stick. You know, every time that politicians talk about attacking billionaires and stuff, they're really just talking about LLCs. A lot of times. Sometimes they're talking about companies, big corporations, but they always put LLCs in that box. And I remember Kamala being pressured about this one time when she was running, and Biden being pressured about this, and they wouldn't answer the question. And it was that, doesn't all of these policies you're trying to pass on LLCs affect the middle class the most and small business owners? And, you know, small business owners, they're responsible for half of the country's employment. They pay employment taxes. They get taxed like crazy. There's red tape like crazy, permitting and citations and just so much regulatory hoops to jump over. It's just the amount of pressure, and it's not like small business owners are crushing it. And even if they are, even if their business is profitable and they only pay themselves, let's say $50K a year, but their company made $400,000, but they want to reinvest it into their company, guess what? They still got to pay taxes on that, regardless if it stays in the business, because it's a pass-through entity. It almost feels like it is so hard to grow and hire more because of that. And then, you know, they're trying to grow, but we're in an economy where people don't want to work. Oh, that's not true. Unemployment is very, very low. It's at like 4%, 4.2%, something like that. So it's not anything crazy. Part of it, it's a new era. You have the gig economies. People are self-employed. They're able to make money outside of a job more than ever in 2025. And it's hard to fill these positions. And then we got ICE that's like just, they're deporting 3,000 people a day. And I'm not saying illegal immigration is okay by any means, but we're fixing a problem so aggressively that it's creating a new problem, I think. So we should, I was excited when I heard about the app that Trump was coming out with, that according to whatever industry you're in, if you're not a felon, if you're not a criminal, and you can get an employer's or some type of recommendation, you could self-deport and be expedited back. But nobody's trusting that system because of how aggressive ICE's policies are, right? And so we have an issue here. It's going to be hard to grow. And so it's either going to be productivity from the employees that we do have. Praying AI helps with that a little bit. Robotics helps with it. Automation helps with that a little bit. Bringing people back in-house instead of working remotely where where studies show they're less productive. It's a challenging, but it's a good problem. It's going to be challenging for our economy's growth, but they're good problems, right? They just need to be resolved, and it will in time. It's just going to be a little bit rocky, but I'm still betting on the markets. Brandon, you asked, let's finish this video and then I'll answer your question.
Still feeling a bit of pressure on filling open positions.
How, if at all, and we have seen some cases of business owners, small business owners talking about this and this reckoning with the immigration crackdown, how has that started to, and is it impacting Main Street?
So certainly for those industries where there are higher levels of undocumented workers, small business owners are feeling the pressure, feeling concerned. But for the most part, small business owners, they want a legal system for hiring. The labor market is tight for those industries that I just mentioned. And so having the ability to legally hire more people is, on the top of their list as they try to expand their business and take advantage of those increased sales customers that are still spending money.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, going to Brandon's question. How does the margin work if you got 20K cash? So you don't want to do stocks that have high stock prices. Unfortunately, market cap isn't gonna help you. Stock prices is what matters, because if you have a stock that is $500, right? ASML, I think, is at like, what is it at? $700, $900, something like that. Let me see. Yeah, $784 ASML is, right? The reason why this is not good is because one contract, if you're selling, okay, so a put or a call, these are called options, and each of these have 100 shares inside of a contract, okay? So if you're going to sell one contract of puts for, let's say, Tesla, and Tesla I think's at 325 right now, then it would be $325. So let's say the premium you get is like, I don't know. Let's actually look at it. I'll walk you guys through this while we're here. Let's do this on my phone. I'm going to walk y'all through this, man. Help y'all out. Get this money. All right. So let's go to Tesla. That's not Tesla. That's whatever the hell that is. All right. And then we're going to go to the options chain. And we're going to go to July 11th because that's 30 days out. Damn, Fidelity's slow. All right. And so let's go to the 20 Delta. That means there's a 20% chance you will get assigned. All right. And so we see $290. So essentially, you are going to sell someone insurance. All right. You're going to sell someone insurance that if the stock, this stock right now is currently, you guys see that? $326 current price. But at the 20 Delta, which is a 20% chance that this that you will be assigned the share, or an 80% chance you won't be assigned, right? So if this stock drops from $326, if it drops below $290, then you have to buy these shares from the person who bought this insurance, and in the form of a premium. So they paid you a premium, and that premium is that $8.70 number you see there. Okay, but that's going to be $8.70 times 100. Okay, times 100. It's not just $8.70. It's going to be $8.70 times 100. Okay, so then you do the math on that. This is what you stand to risk. Okay, now if you're going to collect this $8.70, no matter what, you're going to collect it, because they paid you for those they paid you for that insurance. The difference here is that, again, if it falls below that 290 price, you then have to, let's say it goes to 289, you then have to buy the shares. Okay, so that's $289 times 100. You have to have $28,900 in cash in your brokerage to cover this if at the end of 30 days, if at the end of 30 days, it falls below 290. Could you get early assigned? Yes, you can. But I haven't been early assigned yet. So you better have $29,000 in cash. Okay. Now, if it doesn't fall below 290, then you don't have to buy the shares, and you just have $28,900 in cash in your account still. You never had to buy it. It just stays in your account, but you still collect the $8.70 times 100 is $870. Okay. So imagine you do this for 9 months. Okay. You would have made $7,830. But on your 10th month, you get assigned. Okay. Well, you didn't lose $28,000. You just now have $28,000 in the form of stocks. If that happens, there's a few options you have. You can either hold the Tesla stock and wait for it to go up again, because the only thing we sell puts on are companies we're willing to hold long term. That we're willing to hold long term. Yeah, your cash still earns interest because it sits in a brokerage account. My cash earns 4.5%. Okay, but what I do with my cash is I put it in VOO and QQQ. Last year, for example, my cash earned 23% instead of just being in a brokerage account. So some of it goes into here and some of it goes and stays in the brokerage. Okay. Margin is based on the value of your brokerage account. So if you have 40,000 in value, that's how much margin they're willing to give you. Okay. So for me, I have 40,000 in value, but I have $40,000 in margin that I can spend. Of which, if I was to get assigned those Tesla shares, I can use margin to buy them, but then I got to pay interest on that margin every 30 days. And I think it's like 7%, something crazy like that. Okay. But if you notice, I don't use my margin much. I use my margin to get into some trades, don't get me wrong, if I feel very bullish. But if I go to my balances, this is my actual balances. You guys can see the value of my options account is 49,000. I have 36,000 in margin buying power. I have 13,000 in non-margin. Okay. This is what I have reserved for my option strategies in case I get assigned. Okay. I have 13 grand in cash, which means if I wanted to get into more options, let's say like SoFi or something, I could. The interest rate, I believe, is monthly, I believe. It's not 7% compounded monthly. It's 7% is the annual rate. But you're going to be charged, you're going to have interest accruing monthly. So 7% over the course of a year, right? So anyways, if you are to get assigned though, let's say you were to get assigned, what you can now do, you don't stop earning cash flow every month. Now you're, instead of collecting premiums by selling puts, okay, you're going to collect premiums by selling calls. Right? When you were selling cash secured puts, the underlying asset was cash. When you're selling covered calls, the underlying asset is the stock. Are there certain markets where you rather have stock than cash? Shit, yeah. When we're in a high inflation market and a bearish market. Remember when inflation was going crazy at record highs during the pandemic and stocks tanked? That's when we wanted to be, when the stocks tanked and everything went high inflation, we wanted to be in stocks because we were getting stocks at rock bottom prices and inflation was high. So we'd rather have an asset than have cash that eats away at the cash, right? So in high inflation, bearish markets, especially if it's the bottom, okay, if it feels like it's the bottom, which is hard to time, but if you dollar cost average, you'll be fine. And if you're being risk adverse and you're doing 0.2 deltas, you should be good in the long term. But I would have stock in this type of scenario and I would just sell covered calls. When the market is low inflation and bullish, I want to sell puts, but I also want to have exposure to a bullish market through VOO and QQQ. That's why if you look at my positions, I have VOO and I have QQQ. And I have about $12,000 in each of those indexes. So 24, 25,000 in those indexes. And how am I doing that? Well, whenever I collect premium from selling a put or a covered call, I reinvest the premium into these indexes. So I'm earning cash flow and I'm growing with bullish markets because I have exposure to the indexes. Hopefully that makes sense. I wasn't showing my screen. But I reinvest the premium into VOO and QQQ. That way I'm still earning cash flow here, but I'm also seeing growth because I have exposure to the market that's growing at 20%, whatever it was last year. This year, I forget where it's at right now, but we had a rocky start. But now we're at all-time highs. So if you got in that rocky start, you saw hell of growth like I did. I got in when the S&P dropped a crazy amount. Stocks were tanking 30, 40%. Got in. And you can see from, let me see if I can show you guys the performance here. I've been documenting this for, for a couple months now. So those of you guys who've been following, you've seen it, right? Let me pull up my on my phone. And then I'm going to go back to the questions here. So if you look at my phone here and you look at year to date, you'll see so I wasn't investing here. I was just putting $1,000 in every month, right? So I put $9,000 in January, and then I started putting $1,000 in every month or every week. Every week I was putting $1,000 in, right? When I got to 20,000, that's when they let me do a level 3 margin account, options account, level 3 options account. That's when I started trading. And when I started trading, you guys can see I jumped quickly from $20,000 to $27,000. And then what happened? The trade war. And what happened to my account? I went from 27,000 March 25th to 19,000 April 4th. 2 weeks later. I was like, damn, I don't know what the hell I'm doing then. But I was like, man, this has nothing to do with fundamentals. So at 19.5, I started really, really investing dollar cost averaging into the S&P 500 and QQQ. And since that, April 4th, we had 19,000. June 10th today, we are at 48,000, almost $49,000. So from April 4th to June 10th, what is that, 2 months? We went up another $30,000. Isn't that crazy? Went up 30 grand in 2 months. Insane. By doing this strategy. So hopefully that helps you guys. Tell Logo I said thanks. Do I have an Airbnb? I have an Airbnb. Don't like it. It's work. It's real work. So I answered that. The interest rate, yeah, I answered that. And if you stick to that 2% criteria over a year, you'd be making 24% in theory. Yeah. So it's worth it. Arbitrage and cents. Boring at 7% to make. Yeah, it's boring. It's boring. But that's just from your options, right? Remember, you still have exposure to the market. So if VOO and QQQ grow by, let's say, 15% this year, in the last 10 years, it's been at 17% for QQQ. Historically, it's been at, I think, 12% QQQ. But this is a golden era. This is the AI era. It's going to be booming the next 10 years. The last 10 years was crypto, Web 3.0, a little bit of AI. But this next 10 years, I think 15% is conservative. So if I'm getting 24 from my options, because remember, we're doing 2 to 3% every month. Some months will be at 1.2 because some of our trades, we'll still be at 2%. No matter what, we're going to be at 2%. Sometimes 3, sometimes more, because this premium is guaranteed. Okay. The premium is guaranteed every month. Now, your portfolio might be negative 15. And then that knocks your 24% down to 9%, right? But what if your portfolio is plus 15 or plus 23 like we did last year, plus this 24%? Yeah, that's nice. That's 39 to 40. And I know people will tell you there's no way it's impossible. There's no way it's impossible. You got to understand that when they do these stats, it's not people who know what they're doing. It's everyone. It's retail investors especially. They do not make money. Especially, we're not here day trading, guys. We're sitting on the other side. We're not buying calls. We're not looking for home runs. We're looking for cash flow, consistency, discipline. So, yeah, even if you're borrowing at 7%, sure, but take a look. The reason why I'm not borrowing at 7% is because I'm doing 30-day expiration dates. So look at my balances. If you look at my balances, let me see if I can find it real quick. Last month, let me show you last month. So last month closed positions, this is this month. So far I've made $1,800 this month. But last month I did let's go May 1st to June 1st. $7,500 last month. That's what I made. Okay. Let's see if I paid any interest. So let's go to balances. Doesn't let me put for last month, huh? Yeah, it does. It does. This is historical, right? So how much interest have I paid historically? Why is it not showing here? Hold on. It shows on my phone. Give me a second. I've not paid any interest. None. Because I'm doing 30-day expiration dates. So far, because it's been such a bull market, in the last 30 days, I haven't held a position all the way to expiration. So look. So if you look at the bottom here, why does it always do this? One day I'm going to have a producer. One day, guys. One day I'll have a producer. Nah, I like controlling this stuff on my own. All right, there it goes. You can see no margin interest accrued, no margin interest rate, because I'm not in margin right now, but I have some positions. But in order to get that 7,500 in 1 month, at that time I had 30K in my account. Yeah, I got a margin call even. I even got a margin call, but I haven't paid any interest. So I was way overextended. Let me see if I can find that margin call. Yeah, there it is. Shit, I got a margin call a few days ago. Look. Because of freaking Tesla. Tesla tanked to 275. So I got this margin call for $4,000. Which I don't mind. Like I make good cash flow from my business and stuff. I can just transfer money over to meet the margin call. So sometimes I do overextend myself. Do not recommend. I do not recommend for 95% of people. Okay. So hopefully that answers a bunch of your questions, man. I definitely recommend checking out the free course that I have on my channel. Just search Basio Stock Investing Course as an 8-part series, and it'll help you out, I think. If you haven't, you sound like you know your stuff, a lot of your stuff, so you'll pick this up so quick. Tesla robo-taxis this week, supposedly the 12th. There'll be
rebounding pre-market after shedding over $150 billion from its market cap in the biggest one-day drop ever for the company. Shares began sliding as President Trump and Tesla CEO Elon Musk traded barbs on social media as their disagreement over the Republican tax bill turned personal. Musk claiming that without him, Trump would have lost the presidential election. President Trump responding by threatening to cancel billions and billions of government contracts for Musk's SpaceX, and Musk even saying the Trump tariffs could cause a recession. Initial reports last night suggesting the two leaders could have a call today, but Reuters reporting this morning there are no plans for Trump and Musk to speak. Joining us now, we've got Craig Irwin, Roth MKM Senior Research Analyst. We also have Steve Clements, the Washington Notes founding editor at large. Craig, I want to begin with you. I know that you have been bullish on Tesla regardless of the slew of headwinds we've seen for the stock over the last year. Are you still bullish today?
Absolutely. I think, the Cybercab robotaxi is going to get, the spotlight next Thursday. I think people are going to be impressed.
Thursday.
I'm hearing supply chain for Optimus. They're talking about parts for 30 million robots.
What?
Right? So, these two businesses, they basically create.
Who's buying these? Aren't these robots 35 grand? Do you guys think there's going to be that much demand for it? I mean, if it's badass, if it actually works, people will finance them. They will absolutely finance them. But I don't know, man. I think it's going to be really slow like EV adoption was. I'm getting one.
There are milestones for the next couple of years, and investor enthusiasm for that and the future of AI, where Tesla's a clear leader. These guys are set up for an interesting run. The political noise and the other volatility is more short-term in nature, at least as far as I see it.
Okay, so Craig, it sounds like you believe this is just one part of or one latest episode in the broader season of Trump 2.0. Steve, your reaction to all that played out yesterday and the overhang that it creates for Tesla?
Well, look, I mean, I think that Craig is right, that the fundamental underlying dimensions of Tesla are so strong for the future. But you've got a major spat going on, and the spat's going to have consequences, and there'll be recovery after that spat. But this is a serious political challenge, I think, both for Tesla, and I think it's also, for Donald Trump. Trump and Musk will both survive this, but we've never seen a kind of bromance, between two people blow up this spectacularly, and it will have political consequence unless they're able to kind of patch it up. Musk is threatening to create a third party. He's threatening to create penalties for anybody who supports the big, beautiful bill. And he's really going after Donald Trump in a way we've never seen anybody go after Trump. Trump's threatening to undermine many of the grants and subsidies for SpaceX and Tesla. And so it's a nasty thing that we're just going to have to see play out. But Tesla will survive just fine.
Craig, bringing you back into the conversation, I'm just curious as an investor how you deal with this kind of catalyst for a stock that you hold, given the fact that the relationship between Trump and Musk is part of what drove it up over 40% off of the election results. And then it's also obviously part of what drove it down 40%. We're at around where we were before the president won the election. How do you think about the risk of that?
So the closeness between these two men, I think is something that needed to change a little bit, right? These guys have so much in common, right? Tremendous egos, tremendous power, and very strong opinions, both of them. And they're not always going to share the same opinions, but they have an incredible amount in common, right? I look at them and I laugh, and I think both of them stole their dance moves off Steve Martin on Saturday Night Live, right? I mean, they are so similar in so many different ways that it's natural that they would get along really well. Their interests are still incredibly well aligned. When Musk was saying impeach Trump, he's saying, elevate Vance yesterday. So he's not, separating or putting a lot of daylight between his commitments to conservative causes right here. He's saying that I'm pissed off with Trump. I'm very angry. I differ on some of these things, but he's a man with a lot of passion, a lot of emotion, as is our president. And we have to respect that. And the reality is, I think cooler heads prevail. I think at the end of the day, both of them will see that they're actually really well aligned and that they do have differences of opinion. Trump's saying, hey, I got to govern 1.6 trillion. Not so bad. Musk is saying we should have done 2.5. come on. I mean, I think at the end of the day, the both of them can get together and do a high five and say, you know what, we're winning. Let's make America great again, right? Which is really,
I don't know. This guy's a little bit of a fanboy.
What they've both been saying.
Because if you say $2 trillion and you got 200 billion, although it's a lot of money, it's way off. It's way off, and and he's got a rap sheet of exaggerating, missing still doing unbelievable, amazing things. Don't get me wrong, but it's way off, and critics are going to go to town on that. You got to know that that's going to happen. So I think this guy's right, but I also see why people are criticizing so heavily.
And, that's just something that's going to be good for Tesla and good for the country.
That kind of turns an eye to the vindictive activity that President Trump has been known to have in the past, expecting that they would just come together and high five at the end of this. So as you're kind of looking through the other broader risks here, not just to Tesla, but of course, and not within a coverage universe right now, SpaceX and the other businesses, it seems like there are different areas where Trump could go after Musk. And Tesla might not be the core focus of that, but it still is the one that investors have to grapple with, at least in the near term, whether they want to hold Tesla voluntarily or do as a result of it being in one of the indexes.
So both of them have a record of being highly vindictive, right? There's some stories that haven't really found their way into these books that have been written about Elon Musk, but he has really humiliated some of the executives that he's fired over the last many years. President Trump, I guess most of the public first knows him from his time on The Apprentice, right? Where he was humiliating people by the way he.
I think we've seen this already, to be honest, at this point. When was this released? Oh, this was 4 days ago. Yeah, we watched this already. Stupid head. All right, I did want to check this out. I guess Trump was talking about what's going on in LA. He got asked a few questions, so I think it's worth us checking this out, seeing what's going on here.
Right now, Los Angeles would be burning, just like it was burning a number of months ago with all the houses that were lost. Damn. Los Angeles right now would be on fire, and we have it in great shape. We're not playing around. How will you determine?
I wonder if they're going to ask him, are you sure? Because people in LA are saying, they're going to school graduations, textile factories, restaurants. They're deporting people, like, and they're not even. It's just difficult. It's doing this is creating the huge crowds and the protests, and doing it in front of family at birthday parties, for example. I mean, people are going to try to protect their family members. It's going to be chaotic. But, then I know the other argument is these governments are protecting them. They're hiding them, even the criminal ones. And that's what's causing a lot of these, aggressive tactics that ICE is using. And then family members who weren't even targets end up getting deported as well, or people who were in the area who are getting ID'd. It's tough.
Whether or not there is an insurrection.
But I know there's a better way.
Look at what's happening. I mean, I could tell you there were certain areas of Los Angeles that you could have called it an insurrection. It was terrible. But these are paid insurrectionists. These are paid troublemakers. They get money. And when you take a look at what they do, where they show up and everyone's saying, what's he doing? He's pounding the curbs. This one guy's pounding the curb, breaking the curb, and handing big pieces of granite. In some cases, it's granite.
Yeah.
Granite and concrete to other people. And they're running out with it. And then we watch the other people, and they try and throw it into the face of the soldiers, throw it into the face of the police. And they hurt some people very badly. They go up on bridges, they drop.
Another thing that I looked up, the claim that these protesters are getting paid. I looked into it because I remember bringing that up in front of a friend of mine. He kind of laughed it off, like, "Come on, man, you really think so?" And then I did some research, and it might not be, "Hey, we need you to go. We need here's some money, protesters." It's not that. It's that they're part of. So like they did some studies, right, and they looked at like 10 different protests throughout the years, and they started seeing the same people who were leading a lot of these causes at every single protest. The same people with the intercoms who are, the people with the intercoms are the ones who are kind of organizing it all, right? And these people are part of specific organizations that are funded by programs that is owned by Soros, for example. And that's how they're getting the funding to go protest. And they are what's the word I'm looking for? There is a certain expectation that they're going to go and protest and organize these things, and they often turn violent. And then when you see people who are filming these things, the people with the intercoms, the people who have clipboards and masks on and are, wearing certain things that are part of a specific group, like these are the people who are causing a lot of this violence. And so that's how people are saying, in some way, shape, or form, this is getting funded by organizations that are either funded by taxpayers or by people with special interests. So, and it goes both ways, right? Like, we know that there's certain organizations on the other side as well. All of it is stupid shit. It's just ridiculous. It doesn't help. We've been seeing this for a couple decades now, 18 years between Obama, Biden, and Trump. And, everybody's still complaining.
Drop it down on the cars as the cars are moving. They're not breaking the curb because they're doing a demolition service. They're breaking it to hand out to people as a weapon. It's bad stuff. I've never seen that before.
Mr. President, how soon do you want to see FEMA eliminated? And what's your message to the governors about how much more of an expense is going to fall to states?
Yeah, well, it's not going to be so much the states. We're going to give out less money. We're going to give it out directly. It'll be from the president's office. We'll have somebody here. Could be Homeland Security, but we're going to give it out through a method where it's given out. As an example, I just gave out $71 million to a certain state. They were looking to do about 120. They were very happy with the 71 million. We did a little cutting, and they were very happy with it. So we're going to do it much differently. We think after this, Christy, I'd say after the hurricane season, we'll start phasing it out.
Yes, sir. You set up a FEMA council over the next couple of months. We'll be working on reforms and what FEMA will look like in the future as a different agency, as under the Department of Homeland Security, to the president's vision. And it will empower governors to go out and respond to emergency situations. And that what the president does best is to make sure that the taxpayers are only fulfilling the need to which is appropriate, and that people are responsible to respond to their own people closest to home. So
if a certain state, as an example, gets hit by a hurricane or tornado, that's what the governor should be able to handle it. And frankly, if they can handle it, the aftermath, then maybe they shouldn't be governor.
And Mr. President, when is the last time you spoke with Governor Newsom?
A day ago. Called him up to tell him, got to do a better job. He's doing a bad job.
Oh my God.
Causing a lot of death and a lot of potential death. If we didn't send out the National Guard, and last time we gave them a little additional help, you would have, Los Angeles would be burning right now. Los Angeles would be not a lot different than what you saw take place in California and Los Angeles just a little while ago. And, you got to remember, we have the Olympics coming. And we don't want people looking at Los Angeles like it would have been. It would have been bad. Last night, they had total control. If we didn't have the military in there, the National Guard, and then we also sent in some Marines. We had some bad people. We have people, they look in your face and they spit right in your face. They're animals.
Yeah, that's just wild.
And these are paid insurrectionists. These are paid troublemakers. They're agitators. They're paid. Do you think somebody walks up to a curb and starts hammering pieces out, has all the equipment necessary, and starts handing it out to people to use as a weapon?
They're professionals, man. And they might be paid, but people like that who are extreme and pretty much they make it their profession, right? To fight against what they think is unjustified and unconstitutional things. They're going to gravitate towards certain political movements or political organizations that they identify with. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're associated. The way that they go and they riot and stuff is necessarily the fault of the organizations, right? So I get that angle, but man, it's just too consistent and the organizations ain't doing nothing about it. Because you see the same people at multiple doing the same thing, protests and turning them into riots, right?
These are paid insurrectionists or agitators or troublemakers. You can call it whatever you want.
Huh?
And we ended it, and we have in custody some very bad people.
Oh, I don't like
some very bad people.
Mr. President.
Did you see the guy throwing the rocks at the police cars as they went by?
Huh?
And crushing their windows and
Love you.
endangering our police? We're not going to let that happen, yeah.
Pardon me, Mr. President, on those Marines, Governor Newsom has described them as political pawns. I'm curious for your reaction to that and what you see as the Marines' role and what are their rules of engagement?
All I want is safety. I just want a safe area. We have, Los Angeles was under siege until we got there. The police were unable to handle it. You can speak to the chief. He said it on television 3 nights ago. He said, this is more than we can handle. They said that. And the LA police, I know a lot of the police in LA, they're good, they're great people, but they're given instructions not to do this, not to do that. But in this case, they were trying their best. They were not able to handle it. It was out of control. When we got there, and you have to remember, I've been here before, and I went right by every rule, and I waited for governors to say, send in the National Guard. They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it, and they just wouldn't do it. It kept going on and on. Got worse and worse. And in Minneapolis, that city was burning down 7 days.
Crazy.
And I said, I don't care. The governor, who's a governor that just happened to be running for vice president, a total, you talk about an incompetent governor, he's an incompetent person. That he was picked, well, I was actually very happy he was picked for other reasons. But this guy wouldn't call the National Guard. And we ultimately just sent in the National Guard. We stopped it. But that was after 7 days. And I said to myself, if that stuff happens again, we've got to make faster decisions because they don't want to do it. The radical left.
He was fast.
It's usually radical left, and it's usually governors that are.
I'll tell you what, when Trump is out of office, they are going to go after him for everything. Do you guys think that they should?
Democrat, and they don't want to call him in. They don't want to save lives. They don't want to save property. They don't want to call him in. I don't know what it is. We sent him in, not early, we sent him in late as far as I'm concerned. But big problems, as you know, 3 nights ago, big problems were ensuing. If we didn't send in the National Guard quickly, right now, Los Angeles would be burning to the ground.
The Marines is, a lot of people think, an escalatory step, though. These are guys who fight wars. Are you at all concerned that things could get out of hand with Marines
when I see people
American City?
Throwing concrete into cars, when I see people, the kind of people that I saw on your network doing danger to the police and to the military and to the National Guard.
Oh, shit. They're protesting by my house. Like, literally, I can walk here. Should I go? Oh, my God.
It's
I'm about
okay.
to go over there.
You start running out of people.
Hell no.
You have 2,000 people from a National Guard standpoint. We have a very big military. But the National Guard, they needed a little extra help. And we sent them a little, and we did a great job last night. We had, well, you got a lot of cars go up in smoke and flame and a lot of bad scenes, but it was pretty minor by comparison. This morning it's very calm. We'll see what happens later. But they know if they go there, they're not going to get anywhere because we have the National Guard there. We backed it up with a number of Marines, yeah.
Mr. President, do you agree with Governor Abbott soon signing legislation to mandate the 10 Commandments in school classrooms?
Having to do with what?
Governor Abbott is soon going to sign legislation to mandate displays of the 10 Commandments in school classrooms. Do you support him?
I have to take a look at it. I'm going to have to look at it.
Will the National Guard be in California indefinitely? How long will they be there until you think?
Until there's no danger. It's easy. Look, it's common sense. You ask me that question. When there's no danger, they'll leave. You would have had a horrible situation had I not sent them in. Horrible. You'd be reporting on a lot of...
Bro, they are protesting right outside of my house.
Tonight...
So I live in downtown Tampa. I can walk
Unrest
here.
over immigration. Large groups of people gather across the nation.
Look, Tampa, New York City, LA, Boston. That's crazy. This is walking distance. I'm about to head over there. What y'all think?
From Los Angeles to Tampa Bay today, demonstrators are pushing back on increasing ICE raids and a new travel ban. The ban on 12 countries went into effect today. And this is Nighttime. I'm Dave Wagner.
And I'm Courtney Robinson. Around 100 people swarmed the streets outside of Tampa City Hall late this afternoon. 10 Tampa Bay's Miguel Octavio is live there now with those demonstrations just ending a few hours ago.
And Miguel, tensions flared among those on both sides of this issue.
Dave, police officers had to intervene at one point. This protest took place just by Tampa Police headquarters. Tensions remained high as those protesting against ICE and those supporting immigration policies met with one another.
We will not put up with ICE!
As chants filled a busy portion of downtown Tampa Monday.
No human being is illegal!
Vernon Woodson sat and watched with fear.
These people are not aliens.
He says he's worried family members with ties to
Americans kill me. They're not aliens like the ones in space, in outer space. But there's a term that was used for illegal immigrants since the 17th century. And that's why they use the term aliens. That's the term they use. Never mind.
To Mexico may be deported.
I mean, I just want
I know it sounds bad in 2025, but context matters, right?
us to look at other humans like humans. I said it before to her. We treat dogs and cats better than we treat our fellow humans in this country right now.
This is why politicians don't take the protest serious. Saying stuff like that.
He and dozens of others protested against ICE in recent deportations taking place.
No hate! No ICE in our state!
On the other side,
I think ICE is doing a great job, so that's kind of why I'm out here.
a smaller group of counter-protesters
Go back in Mexico!
Oh my God. That doesn't help either, bro. A lot of those protesters probably are proud Americans and they just want a different approach of how illegal immigration is being handled right now. A little bit of a compromise, right? Like something merit-based. You know, you're being so aggressive to fix a solution, you're going to create a new problem. We looked at how it's affecting small business, unemployment, and especially in certain industries and sectors.
including
And I don't know if you guys have seen all the damage from all the rioting.
Evan Sargent,
ICE, baby, ICE!
who said
Yeah, this guy lives in my neighborhood. Or at least I see him all the time in my neighborhood. That's
as
funny.
immigration enforcement is necessary and applauds the state's initiatives.
Governor Santos is probably the greatest governor in America right now.
Tensions flared up
Look. Why?
on Kennedy Boulevard at some points.
That's all he wanted attention!
Those protesting and counter-protesting barely a foot from each other at times.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Good boy!
It prompted
What is the point? My guy got in his face, said, yeah, that's what I thought. Good boy.
law enforcement to intervene to keep the peace.
Your voice is raising, but your points are not getting stronger. You are
This shit's crazy.
still wrong.
Do y'all not find this like comical? I can't even like, you know, if you in 2025, people have podcast setups just like this in a basement and get more views than mainstream media. I just don't see debating with people. Like, go out there and protest. Go out there and protest peacefully. But getting in debates like that, this isn't the setting for that. It's just going to create issues because people are out of their minds on both sides. So I wouldn't even entertain that. I would protest peacefully, But I ain't entertaining this. I'm going to speak my mind on social media, though, on my live streaming platform where I could reach more people, where I can get more awareness. Leverage technology, right? If you really want to make a difference and you want your voice to be heard. But either way, this is entertaining. It's funny. I mean, the cause is not funny, but this right here, just like Donald Trump be saying some out of this world shit, people protesting are doing wild stuff too. Let's keep watching. This is in Tampa.
In the end, this protest lasting hours did not turn violent, but
Good.
emotions remain high
What I fear about my family, about my friends.
for both sides.
Girl, why would you say that? Just putting a target on your back. Just putting a target on your family's back.
In the end, this protest lasting hours did not turn violent, but emotions remain high
What I fear about my family, about my friends.
for both sides outside of this one protest.
Exactly, you just made my point. She doesn't feel like it, so no.
Now, here in Florida, the state actually leads the nation when it comes to local and state partnerships with ICE. It's in large part because of new legislation that took effect earlier this year. We're live in downtown Tampa. Miguel Octavio, 10 Tampa Bay.
Death and a lot.
You know, there's a lot of people who voted for Trump, a lot of Cubans especially, that were not expected to be targeted in these ICE raids. But man, what they did was they revoked a lot of policies that allowed some of these guys to be here legally, and they're getting deported. It's crazy. All right. With that being said, man, apparently first Model Y, unsupervised, robo-taxi, seen driving. Let's check it out.
First time ever in Austin, Texas, we are seeing
Look.
Model Ys with absolutely no one in it. The robotaxis are here. Let's go, baby. Breaking news for the first time ever in Austin, Texas.
Waiting for them
we
to
are seeing
cross.
Model Ys with absolutely no
They
one
looking
in it. The
good.
robotaxis are here. Let's go, baby. Breaking news.
Bro, the first car accident that happens, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Speaking of which,
the Teslas
is
that
it
you
safe?
can buy today that are on the road now are not that, right? They are not autonomous. You can pay.
Thank you. I've been trying to tell people this. Like, you have all these experts that are getting on the news about Tesla and the unsupervised full self-drive, and they're comparing it, especially CNN. It's not in good faith. You could hate Elon, but like, let's talk about the technology. Let's talk about Tesla as a company. Full self-drive is supervised right now. It is not the version that's going to be unsupervised, without a doubt. But even the supervised version is really, really good. It's just, it's got its issues, but it's supervised. So even if the camera has issues because of the sun or it's raining, whatever, it warns you like crazy and it forces you to take over the car. I'm pretty sure that's not going to be the solution for a unsupervised full self-drive. So this is cool. Let's see what he has to say.
Pay extra for a system called full self-driving, and yet it's a misnomer. It's a system that you have to pay attention to at all times. If you get into a crash, it is on you, and we've seen that play out. When Tesla customers have tried to come after the company says, look, we warned you, we told you that you're responsible for driving while using this system. The company is trying to make this leap. It's been trying to make this leap for years to eventually get to a point where you do not have to supervise, and even to take it further than that, take the human out from behind the wheel altogether. And we hear Musk, talk about that quite a bit lately because it's something that they're actually trying to commercialize, even just in the next matter of, next week or so. There's a lot of questions about how exactly they intend to do that, whether they can do it, especially after He's predicted, year after year that they're on the cusp of doing it. And part of the reason there are doubts is because of the hardware. And I think that's kind of an important aspect of today's story is this particular crash involves, an incident where a driver was using full self-driving, driving into the sun, and that appeared to play a part in the crash, which resulted in a fatality, and it led to a federal investigation that is ongoing.
I mean, this is all very much feels as part of the growing pains as we kind of understand this technology and how it works itself out. So what are the steps that Tesla is taking and that the regulators are taking at this time?
Yeah, so we should acknowledge that this incident happened in November 2023. Tesla has changed. They've made upgrades both to hardware and software. Hardware for certain customers, I should say. But in terms of their approach to the sensor system for their vehicles, Elon Musk has been, really sort of out on a limb and having this view that all you need is cameras. And companies that are also in this space, I think the one people recognize the most is Waymo, the Google company, and they use a mix of camera, radar, and LiDAR, and their sensor set is much more expensive. It's more extensive. These sensors are placed all over the vehicle. But, the sort of bet here on the part of Waymo is that is worth it. It will mean this system is safer. What Musk has tried to do is go with the cheaper route, go with the system that he can afford to put in every Tesla, and make this bet that he can develop his way to autonomy faster by sort of leveraging the broader Tesla fleet, even if it means putting cars on the road that draw scrutiny from federal regulators as to whether or not this is unreasonably unsafe.
So, Craig, I think Elon Musk is back at the company. What does that mean? I mean, are you hearing anything like, okay, now we can get back on track. Now we can really move forward, maybe at a higher velocity. What's that mean?
Yeah, I think it's difficult to tell at this point because he's kind of coming back to business means coming back to so many businesses, right? And so on a day-to-day, we're seeing him travel to his various companies, devoting some time and attention to them. But it's not as though he's sort of 100%, focusing in on Tesla and neglecting all of his other businesses. We see him, regularly engaging with, users on X about, troubleshooting problems that they have with that service. I would say he is, more actively engaging there on Tesla Matters, and definitely is trying to sort of send this signal that, okay, it's time to get back to business here. But whether or not that's, resulting in sort of tangible changes at the company, I think remains to be seen.
Quickly, 20 seconds. What's the rush for autonomous driving?
What's the rush?
I think
it's competition.
40,000 people die on U.S. roads every year, right? And so the rush, of course, is to bend that, to change that. And I think one of the challenges that you have is if you're a company in this.
But if there's one full self-drive car accident, that's going to be equivalent to like 100 of them. The way the media is going to blow it up. But it's also efficiency, productivity, and competition. Let's be honest. It's growing the economy. It's the future.
Spaces. We've now seen a lot of companies pursue this for
lots of jobs could be lost if you're in that space and you're not competitive.
Roughly a decade. That number has not budged. So we still have a long way to go to where this capability is putting a dent in those figures.
You went into
Yeah, that's cool. I did want to talk to you guys about the difference between supervised full self-drive and unsupervised full self-drive. So I've had supervised full self-drive for like 5 years. And it's gotten way better over time, way better, to the point where when I first got it, it could only do full self-drive on highways. It'll get you on an exit, off an exit, and then you got to take over. Now it's the entire city. Makes left turn, stops at red lights, makes right turn, will make U-turns, will take you from your destination, from your home to your destination and back without driving. And it does it, right? Is it perfect? It hasn't been, but that's why it's supervised, okay? The driver must pay attention at all times. The system can steer, brake, and accelerate, but the driver is legally and functionally responsible. And this is by law. This is regulation. So this is considered SAE level 2 autonomy. Okay, level 2 autonomy. And so Tesla full self-drive has been beta as of 2025, and it falls into this category of level 2. GM Super Cruise would be level 2. Ford Blue Cruise, I guess, would be level 2. And so key traits are that your eyes are on the road. Your hands have to be on or near the wheel. So depending on what year the model is that you have, like one of my Model X doesn't have a camera because it's a 2021, I think, or a 2020 or 2021. And it doesn't have a camera. So every now and then, if it doesn't feel that you're holding the wheel, it'll ask you to move the wheel to make sure you're there behind it. It also feels the weight of you on the seat. And if somebody's not sitting in the front seat, it will not drive. And it'll tell you when you got to take over. So the system's more like a co-pilot, even though the name says full self-drive. But it's not a replacement to driving. Where unsupervised full self-drive or true autonomy, this is what we just saw the Model Ys doing. And one of the reasons why I started buying Teslas was because of being able to turn the car into a robo-taxi. So right now I have a Model 3, I have a Cybertruck, and I have a Model X. And I was planning on, making the Model 3 robo-taxi, see if it makes money when that becomes available. I don't know when that's going to happen, but we've seen Tesla Model Ys. It's been working. It's been doing its thing. So this new true autonomy, unsupervised full self-drive is considered level 4 or 5 autonomy. And so I've been inside of a Waymo, and they're amazing. I literally used Waymo the entire time that I was in Arizona, and it worked so well. I felt safe. And then I used Tesla, obviously supervised. It didn't feel as safe as Waymo, but that's also because Waymo's unsupervised FSD. It's another level. And so when you have unsupervised, the car makes decisions in complex, unpredictable scenarios. So if it's raining, if the sun is glaring in the cameras, it'll use its AI to make those decisions. It can be deployed as robotaxis or for people who can't drive. So it's a game changer for people who are handicapped and can't drive, right? Or disabled. And so the core differences between supervised and unsupervised is driver's responsibility, always required for supervised, not required for unsupervised. The driver is always liable where the manufacturer of the system is liable. So if FSD, Tesla's going to have some money in escrow or in a bank account to the side, because if there's a car accident, guess who's responsible? Not the driver. Tesla is. Supervised is level 2 autonomy. Unsupervised is level 4 or 5. Supervised is available right now with Tesla FSD, but unsupervised not available yet. They just started launching it into Austin. You don't need a lot of regulatory approval, but with unsupervised, it needs to meet a lot of strict safety standards. And trust me, the government is on their asses. The media is salivating at full self-drive, unsupervised failing. And the government, Elon's not necessarily in people's high favor, especially in cities like Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York City. I don't know if New York, can it even work in New York City? I don't know. I doubt it. But there's super strict safety standards and regulation. And so supervised full self-drive is like cruise control on steroids, but you're still the driver. And it is on steroids. I literally just have to stare, just have to look. I can I can literally be watching a video while it's driving, and I feel safe. Full self-drive is a true robot chauffeur. It's going to be a massive shift legally, technologically, and culturally if achieved at scale. And the only one who can achieve it at scale right now is Tesla, because a robo-taxi costs $30,000 to make. A Waymo car costs $250,000 to make. And so if Tesla's successful, it's to the moon, guys. And that's what people are scared of. And that's why I still have been selling puts, because if I get assigned, and I don't think I'm going to be, it's above the strike price now. But man, I just see it printing this week. And we're going to find out Thursday. Because right now they're testing the Model Ys, but they're launching their Robo-Taxi on Thursday. Have y'all seen the Robo-Taxi? If you haven't, let me show it to you, because it's crazy. If you've been to if you go to a Tesla store right now, they're showing off the Robo-Taxis. So let's check this out real quick.
Constructive over the long term on this name. Just walk us through why the change now.
Yeah, I didn't want to make it about the spat or dispute between the president and Elon Musk. This was something that we had contemplated for quite a while. I do think that the valuation has got ahead of itself around Robotaxi. It's a very big event for Tesla. It's been in the works for a long time. I do think that two things: it's going to be higher competition when you get out there. Waymo, others. I do think the rollout will take longer. I do think that at first it will require more people, so people in control centers, making sure that the cars don't get into accidents if there's something like that, and so the economics will not be as good as they could be over the long term. And so I think that as we get through this, the hype dies down and it becomes reality, and rolling this out will be very difficult.
It is going to be difficult. I do want to point out one more thing, since we were talking about the difference between unsupervised and supervised FSD. And that's that. Remember, unsupervised, there's no liability to the person in the car. It's on the manufacturer, right? Or the vehicle maker. And so I asked, all right, can you get a DUI if you're in the backseat of the car? In theory, you could be drunk in the backseat while the car drives you, similar to a taxi or Uber. But it's going to be dependent on jurisdiction and the laws evolving. It could change. But in theory, yes. Because you're not operating the vehicle, and you're not liable to if it was to get into an accident. How do you guys feel about that? I mean, isn't that the whole point of getting a taxi a lot of times, is to practice safe driving?
Not to say that Tesla's not done very difficult things in the past. I think there are other risks, though. I mean, key person risk outside of the president and Musk's spat. I think that retaining talent is something that I worry about. We did see the head of Optimus, the Optimus program, leave recently. The best thing about Tesla is their employees, innovation there. I think they'll always be able to recruit very strong engineers. This makes it a little more difficult. And then just very near term, I do think that numbers are too high for deliveries. We're seeing, a lag in all auto sales. But, with Tesla and, the brand damage that has occurred in different regions, I think that that's a risk as well. And then we have tariff risk, and we can go on for other risks as well. And so we thought it was time to just go to the sidelines for now. We do remain constructive in the long term. Short, intermediate term, though, I think there's downside to the stock.
So, Ben, let's unpack some of this. So, 3 buckets of risk. We've got lofty expectations, key man risk, and competition. Ben, can we just sit on competition for a beat?
Key man risk being Elon Musk.
Where is the competition coming from? Who do you worry about?
Well, in China, I think is the most fierce competition on the electric vehicle side. In the United States, I think that the ride-hailing robo-taxi service is going to have competition from the likes of the incumbents of Uber and Lyft to Waymo to others. There are several other companies out there. Amazon has a company that is working on autonomy as well. And so I think that the economics will not be as lofty as some people think. Additionally, it is also a consumer product. And so when we worry about brand damage for vehicle sales, you have to wonder about any kind of brand damage when you start getting into a car without a driver. And then third, in Europe, I think you have a host of competition, and lots of bears over the years have talked about competition, and it hasn't really gone anywhere. But now you have the likes of BYD selling into Europe. Tesla sales were better in the last month than BYD, but BYD is catching up with them. And then you also have Germany that are making a big push for their domestic OEMs, auto manufacturers, giving some types of credits or breaks on their cars to try to catch up with Tesla as well. And so you kind of have it coming in all different directions right now.
On the driverless vehicle side of things, we also learned this morning that Uber would be partnering up with a company called Wave to try to launch robo-taxis in the UK. Ben, a really tried and true business model for tech had been prove it works in America and then export it abroad. When it comes to a robo-taxi for Tesla, is that option, is that business model for growth not as available to them because of the brand damage you've been talking about?
I think it is. And I think one thing, about the key person risk and Elon, this double-edged sword. I remember, during the Biden administration, Elon gets on a plane and goes and meets with Xi, and just out of the blue. He had, his reach stretches very far. I think that, there are difficulties in China about data. They have made progress there. Europe is a little more, the EU is a little more bureaucratic, I think, and more difficult, like a patchwork, to get approval there. In the US, one of the fundamental things that the relationship between the Trump administration and Musk had going for it is to try to have a blanket federal rule about advancing autonomy versus the patchwork state way that we have it right now. So I think they'll be able to move, outside of the United States in this. I think it takes time. One of the advantages they have is they're going for this all visual, all camera approach versus, much higher cost for a Waymo. A Waymo vehicle costs over $200,000. And so it's much more capital intensive. There's still a big debate whether, Tesla's approach will work in the long term, but that remains to be seen.
Ben, just before you go, I know you don't want to make the downgrade about the spat between Elon Musk and the president, but I'd love a comment from you on that. Do you think we made too much of a big deal of that about what it means for the stock? What was your general reaction to how that played out?
Well, I think it's bad for our country. And I love our country. And I think that, being public in this dispute like that, and it got pretty racy. I don't think that's good for anyone. Tesla, SpaceX, Elon's other companies, some of the most, if not the most innovative companies in our country right now. And, getting, down and dirty in the sandbox doesn't do anyone any good.
Yeah. It's cool, man.
Let's start with a few.
It's cool. I want to show you guys this real quick. Check this out, y'all. Check this out. See if this will work, actually. Yeah. All right. So this is a magazine, Barber Evo magazine. You can see your boy has a couple pages in there, and look what they wrote. From a broke college athlete with clippers in his dorm room to one of the most influential figures in modern barbering, Chris Bosio's journey has never followed the blueprint. Today, the co-founder of Tomb 45 has stepped away from cutting behind the chair. I love cutting hair. I still cut for my nephews, friends, and family, but it's not where I bring the most value anymore, he said. Now it's strategy, mentorship, and team building. Read our full interview with Bosio Cuts in the latest edition of Barber Evo North America. That's fire, man. It's cool. Mama, I made it. All right. There's a couple things that I wanted to check out before we end tonight's live stream. I want to look at this.
China reportedly concluding trade talks in London. Our Megan Cassell is at the White House and has the latest. So what do we know, Megan? Hey, Sarah. So just in the last few moments, we did confirm via a Treasury spokesperson that the principals are still talking in London, that those talks are still ongoing, contrary to some of those reports that we had seen. So we are now well into the 5th hour on the second day of trade talks now in London. And everything we've been hearing so far publicly from the U.S. side has been positive. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, on his way into talks this morning, he told reporters that talks were going well, that he expected them to go well again today. President Trump also said late yesterday he'd gotten only good reports from the team, with a full day of talks yesterday and potentially another full day today, depending on how long this goes. We are way beyond now the short meeting with a strong handshake that Kevin Hassett previewed yesterday. One White House official also told me just in the last few minutes that there had been some progress at the end of the day yesterday, so something measured there. But overall, mostly positive here. We don't know at this point whether talks will continue into tomorrow. Secretary Bessent is scheduled to be testifying on Capitol Hill, but there's some question still as to whether the other officials might be able to stick around. The White House official said they were checking on that for me just a few moments ago. Now, longer talks could simply mean that negotiators are touching on issues beyond the ones that we know have been in focus. That's the export controls and the rare earth minerals. But it also could reflect the fact, guys, that the Chinese, based on industry sources I've been talking to this week, the Chinese hold more of the leverage here. So Andrew Bishop at Signum Global highlighted that the Chinese know how dependent the U.S. is on them for the rare earth minerals, and they will have seen the reports from yesterday that the president authorized his team to loosen up on some export controls. So this was his analysis.
CNBC, I don't know if they're American or not. Do you know how many, when I look at the stock, investors and bankers and CEOs and economists, most of them are saying we have the leverage, and we do. Just think about it. Just think about it. You have 1.5 billion people in China who earn a median income of $8,000 a month. For their economy to grow, their economy is built on manufacturing. And people will say stupid things like, oh, they make all their own stuff. They don't need us. They make their own toothpaste. They're never going to run out of stuff. That's not how their economy thrives. They have to do a surplus of manufacturing. And when you have a country that makes up 14% and 25% of the global GDP, okay, you can't just replace that. And so if China does not create a surplus of manufacturing, how do these jobs get paid? Because $8,000 a month is not enough in income to replace the poorest people in America have more spending power than the average person in China. The math just doesn't math. And people will say they have 1.5. Guys, their GDP is smaller than America's, and we have 350 million Americans, and our GDP is still bigger. We don't need to thrive. Our economy does not thrive from a surplus of manufacturing. Their economy is dependent on this. Ours is not. If we don't do manufacturing in America with robotics and AI and automation, we go to Turkey. We go to places in Africa. We go to other places in Asia. We go to... That's how Taiwan Semiconductor, that company, was built. Is
that the Chinese have...
I mean, either way, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, what I really care about is trade talks happening? Is it progressing? And that's good for the market.
Every incentive to drive a hard bargain, which he defines as asking for more than simply a reversal of the past 2 weeks of controls, and which could include things like bringing up, for example, Huawei's AI chips and the U.S.'s limitations on their use by third-party countries. So, guys, still ongoing for now. We do expect them to continue at least a little bit longer. We'll bring you more as we have it, but a lot on the table today for these two countries. Guys.
Speaking of a lot on the table, Megan, there's the question of other countries tariffs and the upcoming G7 summit. There's been some items that say Mexico's president might request a bilateral when she's there or if she's there. Does that summit provide some urgency on signings of other deals?
It could be some urgency, or it could at least be an opportunity to keep on going. I'll be headed up to Canada this weekend to be there for that G7 next week, and we know that trade is going to be the main topic there. Mexico and Canada have both been talking in the past few days about retaliating against those higher steel and aluminum tariffs that took effect last week. Canada, of course, being the top supplier to the U.S. of both steel and aluminum. So by making that move that the president did last week, that's a direct shot at Canada, the host country, and of course the U.S.'s closest ally and neighbor. So between the Mexico bilateral, the Canada bilateral, the EU talks ongoing and not going particularly well from everything we've been hearing. Of course, I don't know if it's urgency to get talks done because of the G7 summit itself and the fact that it's happening. What's more the fact of urgency, Carl, I would say, is that we are now, I think, less than a month, just about a month to that deadline where the tariffs kick back in again higher. That's really the urgency that they want to show some sort of progress by then.
Yeah, so that's good news. I mean, that's good news with as far as the China and the and U.S. tariff talks. But I do, we've been saying for a while. June, it looks like it's going to be good as far as CPI, inflation reports. But July might be different, and so I'm definitely going to be a little more cautious here in July. Let's check out what they have to say here about that.
Brown, portfolio manager, head of multi-asset strategy at UBS.
What's up with XRP? I'm not sure. I haven't looked into. I just dollar cost average in XRP, but I'm not a huge fan. I'm not that bullish of XRP. I do not think XRP is going to replace the way banks do business. I mean, maybe small ones in less developed countries, but JP Morgan's already figured that out. They already have, they're already using, blockchain technology. They're expanding internationally. They already have technology where you can transfer money from any country in the world, instantly. Like, JP Morgan's been on it, and if you haven't been following Jamie Dimon, you should, because it'll kind of kill the whole idea that XRP is supposed to change all of the whole banking system. It's not, but it is going to be effective in less developed countries. But I don't think it's going to be something that's the solution. It's not going to be the solution. And at some point, like in the next, 10, 20, 30 years, quantum computing is going to replace all that, from my understanding.
Asset management.
So I'm not bullish in XRP long term, except for in that it might be a cheaper route, a better route for less developed countries. But I'm not, XRP, that's not why it's booming. I don't think. It's not because it's going to help banking for countries. And I mean, Bitcoin's already kind of doing that a little bit. Not really. But.
Management, thanks for joining us. You're all set. We've been waiting and waiting for that scary.
I think July we're going to have a little bit of a bump, a little bit of a rise in unemployment, a little bit of a rise in inflation, a little bit of a rise. There's going to be some more volatility because of tariff talks if we don't get more progress. So
inflation print from the tariffs. We're not going to get it this week, you don't think, but this is the last one that lulls us into. Are we in a false sense of security?
Well, we should enjoy this print while we can, because yes, you're going to start seeing after this month the inflation prints really start to accelerate. Core CPI had dipped finally from above 3% into the high 2s. We're going right back up above 3% because of the tariffs. But we shouldn't get too concerned. I think what the Fed is mostly focused on is inflation expectations. And actually, we got the New York Fed's inflation survey yesterday, and that actually showed inflation expectations moderating. So hopefully that continues, and they can see this inflation jump as more of a one-off.
So all the companies that are saying we're not going to raise prices, they're they're somehow doing something. They're surreptitiously raising prices, at least to where we get back to a core of 3%.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be a mix. Some will be absorbing some of the higher taxes in their margins. There'll be some pass through to the consumer.
We haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
the
they're
market,
not.
And the S&P is up 21%.
That's right. That's
the
right.
worst case scenario, but so it's just been put off. There's a negative scenario on the horizon, in your view.
I think I would just say, yeah, there are challenges that U.S. corporations are going to have. The commentary that we've seen so far from these companies in earnings is that they have the levers to pull. They can adjust supply chains. They're able to adapt. But without question, they're going to be pushing forward a lot of these price increases to the consumer.
When does that show up?
So that'll be tomorrow will be the last print before we really get that. Yeah. It's really once we get into July, and that's the June data.
You're sure?
It's going to start happening.
You know.
I'm confident that
take your word for okay.
Inflation
and we're not going to grow very much. It's going to be 1% GDP growth, which that won't help the dollar, right?
Yeah. So I mean, look, we've enjoyed really strong GDP growth over the last couple of years, growing at almost 3%, 2023, 2024. And we're just coming off, we've had that big fiscal impulse, right, which was unsustainable. We had the big immigration impulse, which was unsustainable, certainly politically. And now we're just coming back down. And so we're just going to see more of a muddle through in growth here in the U.S., which is not going to look that different, GDP growth, than some of our peers, Europe and Japan. And with the dollar still kind of overvalued, we do see room for the dollar to come down as U.S. growth normalizes.
Is it overvalued?
Does the market recognize that, what you're saying?
Likes the market after all this,
yeah.
And thinks that companies are going to do better.
Well, the dollar coming down is a big tailwind for U.S. earnings.
The market
right, when you
continues
translate it back.
to go up.
Yeah, so it's a muddle through environment, but muddle through environments haven't been so bad for the stock market. And in fact, you could argue if we were overheating right now with all the focus there is on the bond market, if you got some kind of yield spike, that wouldn't be a good thing, right? So you get okay growth, you get a dollar weaker, which is going to help company earnings, and I think we grind higher here.
But you think it's not clear sailing. The second half of the year we get a growth scare, but when it's all said and done, we're still higher at the end of the year on the averages.
That's the thinking. I mean, we know that the hard data, the real activity data, the labor market is going to cool, right? That's all signs are pointing into that. It's just a matter of how fast. Our base case is that, it's a gentle cooling, but you might get some data prints here and there. Maybe you get a payrolls print that looks kind of close to zero and the market's going to react to that. We could have a little bit of a correction, but all things said and done, we think we avoid recession and the markets can end higher at the end of the year.
Evan likes silver, too. We were talking about silver earlier.
So do some other people. It's
a lot of people have been talking about
highest
silver.
level since February 2012.
But to me, 36 looks high.
Look, a lot of investors are going to tell you silver because I'm sorry about that. A lot of these guys have funds. They manage hundreds of millions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars. And so they talk about all these things, or they just have millions in their account. You have to understand that for every decision you make, there's an opportunity cost. And in the beginning, when your accounts are smaller, you have to make the most of it. Some of you guys have no business getting in silver or gold or any of that other shit. You just need to be sticking to the stuff that works. Go listen to The Snowball by Warren Buffett or The Dondo Investor by Monish Pabrai. Amazing. 2 amazing books that will change the way you think about investing. Dondo, I'm writing them down for you. Dondo Investor and Snowball. Okay, this is Warren Buffett's book. This is Buffett's book. And this is Monish. Okay. Go check out those 2 books. Will change the way you look at investing. And these are guys who started with nothing. Yeah, Robert, literally just talking about gold and silver. I think it's an opportunity cost. I would just stick to stocks and to the indexes and options and your own business. Creating more cash flow for yourself. Either your own, building new skill sets, getting a raise at work, getting a promotion at work, or having a side hustle, or if you're self-employed, focusing on your business and scaling it. That's what I would be doing. All right. And let's see. There was another video here that I wanted to check out. This is old, I think. Oh, no, this is 55 minutes ago. Let's check this out. What's CNBC thinking about the markets right now? Good context.
Adam Crisafulli and Wealth Enhancement Group Senior Vice President Nicole Webb. Great to have you both here. And Adam, I will kick it off with you. How much hinges for this market as it starts to flirt with record highs regarding these trade
record
deals?
highs.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're obviously very significant, but we're already back to where we were before the trade war really kicked into high gear. So I think not only do we need to have a significant de-escalation between the U.S. and China, but remember, there hasn't been a single trade agreement struck yet. The UK had that. It was a memorandum of understanding, but we're coming up on that 90-day reciprocal tariff suspension deadline in really just over a month from now. And so we have to see more progress on the non-China side of the equation as well. There's a big G7 meeting coming up that starts this coming weekend. I think there's a lot of anticipation that you're going to see at least another kind of memorandum of understanding announced with some other country as well. But there's a lot of anticipation. Markets are, in my opinion, very complacent about the trade risks that are still out there. Keep in mind, we still have a significant tariff burden that the economy is absorbing right now.
Nicole, we keep talking about the wall of worry that stocks have to climb here, but there's also this secular AI growth trade that has reignited in recent weeks. And you can see that with the mega cap tech names leading the rally since those April lows. Do you buy in here or do you sit on your hands and wait for a pullback?
I think there's two really important things. I think first, we have to remember that the market isn't just rallying off of the expectation of being past peak tariffs. It's rallied on real earnings, on the confirmation that CapEx spending is going to continue to happen, and then an economy that just continues to trudge along and refuses to roll over. On the other side of that, to your point, Morgan, we've shifted from a narrative of buying AI in bulk to who can actually deliver and where is the economy of scale on top of AI going to come from. And so this is where you're seeing this divergence in performance across the megs. They're not moving in lockstep anymore. And so you're seeing the benefactors like the Microsofts and the Metas and those like Alphabet that are getting left behind. I think that's where investors have to get really specific if they are deploying cash today.
Adam, we're getting CPI tomorrow morning. Valuations are rich in the market overall. How much of a difference is that going to make?
I think the CPI is really crucial. The May data. So
now that I think about it, I was supposed to look at a position for Apple. Maybe I did. But I kind of like Apple. I think it's at the bottom. Let's see what it looks like on a chart. Since she mentioned Apple real quick. And I just want to give you guys kind of my logic here. We know Apple's a great company. We know it's not in the strongest times that it's had. It's below the 200. It's got some volume here. It looks a little stagnant. This is the 1-day chart, but it just crossed over the RSI. There's a lot of volume here, so it could start creeping up here. Let's look at the 1 hour. Same, lot of volume. It's above the 200. It's crossed over the RSI. It's about neutral. It's got some upside here. Let's see if it's worth getting into Apple here. I might be looking to get in there tomorrow for a 30-day for July 11th expiration. Get some extra premium. Let's see. Apple's at $200, which means one contract would be 20 grand, right? 100 shares. God, I'm the worst with math. Yeah, 20 G's. And I have 32,000, I think. It's a lot. It's overextended for sure. But I have high conviction here. So let's take a look at the 20 delta here. Let's see if there's even any profit to be made here. So it's at 202 right now. Okay. The 20 delta is 190 is the strike. And the premium is $1.98. So you're looking at per contract, nothing. I don't think this is going to meet. This ain't going to meet the number. So 200, this ain't going to work because this is why you need a lot of money in your account. This is why I suggest, man, save dollar cost average. So this is a 1% return. But wait, am I lying? Yeah, that's July 11th. Damn. Let's see 45 days. Let's see 40 days out or 37 days out. Is it better? Delta 190. It's $2.58. So no, still. But if you're good with 1.5% return, Apple might be for you. It's not for me right now. I'll tell you what though, if I had $1 million, I would be buying the shit out of Apple right now. Not buying it, but selling puts on it, like a bunch of contracts probably. Let's keep going though. Let's keep watching this.
So far on the growth front has not been great. So, the Fed arguably, I think, has a stronger case to make, for being a little bit more dovish in kind of their forward guidance. So if the CPI is tame, and we've seen the weakness in some of the growth numbers last week, then, I definitely think you could see kind of a little bit of a dovish tweak perhaps in the forward guidance from the Fed next week at their meeting. So the CPI is going to be important. Then we also have some critical bond auctions as well. I know both of those two events are going to play into, how yields perform going forward.
Yeah, and Nicole, you like two retail names, TJX and Home Depot, both up better than 10% over the past 12 months. That TJX doing better than the S&P, up, I think, more like 15+%. S&P's up better than 12. Home Depot trading.
All right. I mean, the real estate market's a little scary right now. I don't believe you guys were listening to this.
Underappreciated. I think it's something that could actually happen this year.
Yeah, that could be a future catalyst in June. They keep talking about the birthday summit because their birthdays are so similar, and they happen to be in the same place at the same time. So that could also be a place for progress.
But is this? Let me paraphrase Brian's question again, which is we have this anticipation about what birthday summit or what could happen. Kind of happy talks from both sides, although maybe a little bit less on the Chinese side. I mean, is all of the good news already priced in here? And could we wake up to another nasty surprise in the form of a tweet or otherwise where we're going back down the road that we were on kind of pre-April 2nd?
Yeah, I think it's certainly feasible. I mean, we are still in this 90-day truce period, but I think a lot of on U.S. equities.
This is why I'm afraid of July.
Very well over an extended period of time. Where I think for us, kind of investing on the Chinese equity side. We think this geopolitical headwind, if we can make some progress, it really takes some of those handcuffs off. And we really do believe, despite the year to date, despite the strong performance of KWEB over the last year and a half, we do think there's significant upside to Chinese equities based on valuations, where I think for U.S. equities, it potentially needs a trade deal more because of the higher valuations today.
Yeah, a trade deal would make things skyrocket. Right now, everything's positive. A trade deal is expected, but a confirmed trade deal would really be nice. All right, this is probably going to be the last video that we check out today. This is, I guess, the Marines. The Marines have touched down in L.A. Let's see what's going on.
Who are now positioned in the Los Angeles area. President Trump deployed 700 Marines to L.A. and another 2,000 National Guards troops to L.A. in order to protect federal buildings and employees amid the ongoing protests against ICE operations. Now, that brings the total number of National Guard's troops to 4,000 in the county. The Pentagon says deploying the support to Los Angeles will cost $134 million. And as the additional military support arrives, President Trump told members of the press he isn't ruling out the use of the 1807 Insurrection Act in Los Angeles.
Take a look at what's happening. I mean, I could tell you there were certain areas of Los Angeles that you could have called it an insurrection. It was terrible. But these are paid insurrectionists. These are paid troublemakers. They get money.
Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass addressed the administration authorizing the use of Marines and the National Guard during a press briefing just a short time ago. Take a listen.
Absolutely unnecessary. People have asked me, what are the Marines going to do when they get here? That's a good question. I have no idea. The National Guard that are here now have one assignment, and that is to protect one building, which is the federal building downtown. The second building, which is the federal building on Westwood Boulevard. And as far as I know, nothing has happened in Westwood at all. So this was not needed.
Lady, nothing has happened. They didn't deploy them. Look, I'm not with all the, jeez, man. This is the problem. This is why Democrats aren't getting voted for. You gaslighting. You know damn well the point is to prepare in case it happens, because it's been getting worse, not better. So he's been deploying more people in case, not after the fact, not when it's too late, not as a reaction like we've done the entire Biden administration, but to be proactive. How the hell are you going to sit there and say you don't see the purpose for it when they're throwing bricks, when they're lighting cop cars on fire, Waymos on fire, they're throwing bricks through the windshields, they're throwing scooters at it, like they're shooting rockets, commercial grade rockets at these cars. They're attacking police officers. And then the police officers are scared as shit. They're shooting rubber bullets at everyone, including the reporters. It's chaos. And when you have chaos, anything is possible. The wildest shit is possible. I was listening, there was a guy who commented on one of my videos, who's a barber, and he said that he was there and it was totally unrelated, but he saw people shooting out of a car at innocent bystanders and a woman got shot. And it was totally unrelated. But during these times of chaos, this is where people go out to do effed up stuff because they know that the world is distracted. Now they're even breaking into stores and stealing and looting it again. So what we gonna do? We're gonna wait till it's total anarchy. Till we have another Capitol Hill building incidents. Till we have another Minneapolis and Portland, Oregon, and Seattle. Shit, man.
That's a good question. I have no idea. The National Guard that are here now have one assignment, and that is to protect one building, which is the federal building downtown. The second building, which is the federal building on Westwood Boulevard. And as far as I know, nothing has happened in Westwood at all. So this was not needed.
All right, there's a lot of ground to get to. We have a panel of guests covering the protests. Our Nicole Killian is at Fort Bragg in North Carolina tracking the president's response. But we begin with CBS News correspondent Elise Preston, who is with us on the ground from Los Angeles. Elise, good to see you again. You've been covering this for days now. What's the situation on the ground today? And compare it to what you've seen over the days of coverage.
Well, Tom, right now it is pretty calm here in downtown LA. We're right outside of the federal building that Mayor Karen Bass was talking about in that soundbite. And it has been calm. You can see that traffic is actually flowing in front of the federal building. That was not the case yesterday. Officers were blocking off this roadway. And today, just within the last half hour, we're starting to see more people, more Angelenos, kind of trickle down to this area. There's actually like a marker that's right behind me. We watched someone tag it. We're starting to see some people kind of come out with signs. We cannot show you those signs, and we can't show you those tags, obviously, because of the language that is used. But you heard Mayor Karen Bass. She is.
I saw a LGBTQ flag. Why is it out there? They're not deporting. They deporting gay people too?
Making it clear that this is not what they want to see in Los Angeles. You mentioned that large, sizable number, 4,000 troops, right? 4,000 people coming into the city.
Never mind, gay people in support. I get it. LGBTQ in support.
To work here to protect the city. We have not seen evidence of that number of federal agents. I can tell you that right in front of the federal building, there are about maybe 6 or 7 National Guardsmen standing by. Their vehicles, their big armored vehicles are in front of the building. But outside of that, you're really not seeing a huge presence of law enforcement. Now, we are starting to see that they are blocking off the on and off ramps here in some streets. This is just happening as we speak. But for the most part, it has been pretty calm. And outside of the graffiti, it doesn't necessarily look like anything major has happened in Los Angeles at the moment.
Now, have you had a chance to talk to?
So what the logic that that people are gonna use is it was a waste of time. Nothing ever happened. But maybe because of this, nothing happened, right? Like, we're never gonna know now, but you're definitely gonna get different narratives, right? From depending on what people's biases are.
Any LA residents, how are they
I think we avoided what could have been a lot worse. If it would have been just police, it would have been bad, I think.
Responding to the news that the president is mobilizing members of the Marines in addition to those 4,000 National Guards troops that you were mentioning.
Well, I think people are just concerned in general about this situation that's unfolding. I think a lot of Angelenos that are not also right here in front of the building, I think they're quite frankly frustrated, right? Because they're saying...
I don't think it wasn't robo-taxis, right? It was unsupervised FSD, and they're using the Model Ys. I think the robo-taxis launched Thursday. Can't wait.
Just how large the city is. When you talk about LA County, we're talking about millions of people. The population of LA County is larger than a lot of states. And so I think people are frustrated that there is this narrative that all of Los Angeles is in chaos. All of Los Angeles is seeing this haywire, and these clashes between protesters and law enforcement agents, they're happening in very small pockets of the city. Mostly they've been right in front of this building, but as you can see for now, there is not anything happening at the moment.
A very important point to make. Elise Preston on the ground reporting for us. Elise, thank you. All right, I want to turn now to CBS News congressional correspondent Nicole Killion, who is traveling with the president at Fort Bragg in North Carolina. Nicole, good to see you. You know, the White House has already said that these deployments are to protect federal buildings and personnel. What more do we know about the extent to which these Marines are expected to operate on the ground in Los Angeles?
Yeah, well, what we know is that, again, a group of Marines has arrived in the Los Angeles area, according to a defense official. Some 700 Marines were deployed as part of this. But look, you know, their movements and their duties are largely protection-based, if you will. That is something that the defense secretary emphasized on Capitol Hill earlier today, saying that the primary duty, not only of the Marines and the National Guard, were simply to make sure.
Hold on. I'm trying not to get copyright strike.
Various units were being deployed. Know whether they are or not. We saw that will culminate at the end of this week with a big military parade in the nation's capital. And so they're kind of kicking things off here, if you will, kind of a pre-show here at Fort Bragg, where the president will be joined with Secretary Hegseth and other officials, basically to, you know, speak to the troops, to observe some of the military readiness in terms of the equipment that is here at this base, and kind of provide, you know, booster to the troops here, a morale booster, if you will. So we've already heard from the Secretary of the Army, but again, this is all going to culminate with that big parade in D.C. at the end of the week.
All right, Nicole Killian, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, right off the top.
Well, crazy, bro. They were protesting everywhere. All right, you guys, that's it. That's all I got for today. Very, very, very interesting day. Tonight, I will be launching my daily report. How today went, what tomorrow looks like, and what's on my watch list. So I will see you guys later. See you guys tomorrow, man. If you're gonna check out my live stream, I'll be on tomorrow. But look out for tonight for that upload if you've been investing like me. Have a good night, guys.